Welcome to DAX Machina, with your hosts, Naoma Finn, Steve Wildman Monrodis, and D.A. Roberts. Join us as we explore writing, books, authors, and all things horror. We will delve into the sightings, reports, encounters, and tales of monsters. We will also explore the writings of D.A. Roberts along with others in the horror genre. We will investigate the possibilities that monsters may not be safely locked away in the pages of books. They might just walk among us even now. Grab some popcorn and lock the doors. It's going to be a creepy journey. Welcome to DAX Machina.
Good evening, folks, and welcome to another edition of DAX Machina. I'm going to say a quick shout out to everybody in the chat room. We've got Lanita Bryant here tonight, John Abraham, Smedley Do-Right, Tanya Willis. We got a Facebook user that's probably coming in from Facebook that YouTube's not picking up. Fred from Alaska, Cowboys 5 Rings is with us tonight. Mark Napier, Margaret Mills, Werewolf 5674, and Still Crazy Chris. Hey, everybody, how are you doing? Monster Radio was just in the house. Hope you guys are doing well tonight. Joining me tonight is my partner in crime, Anthony. Steve Wildman Monrodis is still on vacation, and Doc and his wife got lost in the mountains of the Rockies and are still spending some time together. He will be back with us Wednesday. Joining us is Jimmie Barr. Jimmie, how are you doing, buddy?
I am doing fantastic. Thanks for having me, guys. It's a pleasure to be
here.
here.
I appreciate it.
Not much.
I just rewatched your episode of These Woods Are Haunted. I really like that story.
Thank you. I say thank you. I don't know how to respond to that. I'm glad it didn't suck, I guess.
Well, some of them on there, you're like, some of the stories on there, I like the one that was like on with your episode. That wasn't one of my favorites, but yours was just fantastic.
Yeah. It was as scary as it looked, for sure.
I bet.
If anybody's got any questions about it, I know I got a lot of people that always ask about it that, want any questions. Anybody in chat has any questions, I'll be more than happy to any of your questions. I'm an open book.
Yeah, you are, man. We talked for hours that night. I remember that. We just went at it. Me and you.
My biggest question out of that my wife and I had was, if that had been me, I would have kicked my brother's ass.
Yep, that's what everybody. He got eaten alive online. People went at him, but what people don't realize was when they filmed it, the person that played me in reality was about the age of my older brother. That kid that played me was probably 12 years old. And my older brother, he looked 19, 20 years old. That's not age as we were. I was 7 or 8. My other brother was 8 or 9. And my oldest brother was 9 or 10 or 11.
So not much age difference.
No, we were 2 years apart. But they had it. Somebody older can make better decisions, and that's just not how it was. At 12 years old, there's no fight or flight. It's just save your own butt.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's just flight. I could get that, but on there they kind of made it look like there was a much bigger age difference.
Yeah.
So when you and I talked on the phone, you said it was actually 2 different creatures, not just the one.
Absolutely.
Yeah, would you like to elaborate on that a little bit? Because I think not everybody in the chat has seen the show. If you guys have not seen it, the series is called These Woods Are Haunted, and it's season 2, episode 7. Jimmie's story is on that, and it's an awesome story.
Yeah, it is.
So in the series, I guess 2 different Sasquatch costumes weren't in the budget. And so they made it sound like later on that night it came back. When in reality, what had happened, the one that fell out of the tree right in front of me about 5 feet away, the branch it was on broke. And it was about 15 feet up. And when it landed, Its legs barely bent, but that one was about 6 foot tall at the most, and it to me, not looking back, I mean, it looked more like Caesar from Planet of the Apes. The one that came back later that evening stood in the was staring in the window at the end of our trailer. This is 41 years ago. And when it was looking through the window, this much of its head is all I could see below, the top of the window. So there was still some head above the window, and that's, if it was standing straight up, it had to be at least 8.5 feet tall. But this one didn't look anything like the one that was in the window. I mean, the one that fell out of the tree. What's up? How you doing there, Connor? The one that was at the window looked, it was a cinnamon color, and it looked like a really, really, really old Native American mixed with a caveman. If you combine the two, a really, really, really old Native American with a caveman, that's what it looked like. And being 5 feet away from that one, just on the other side of the window, monsters are real. They're.
Oh yeah.
That was a day that there was different kind of monsters that we learned are real.
Is that your only encounter?
It is my only visual encounters. I've had other encounters in East Tennessee, which I believe are Sasquatch encounters, being roared at and yelled at. And one of them I got recorded. Being a singer-songwriter, I went up, one of my songs was nominated for an award for Josie Music Awards in 2019. So I was going up there to do the red carpet show, and then we had the pre-party show at Old Reds. But on the way up there, I stopped at this scenery. Basically, it's on the Foothills Parkway, Smoky Mountains Foothills Parkway, overlook number 4. I got out, I looked out to this big valley, and I just did a big yell, thinking this would be a great place to do one of those Matt Moneymaker calls. Never done one before, had no reason to record. And then what sounded like a giant humanoid roar/yelled at me, and it scared me to death. Absolutely scared me to death. Then I called my wife, and she was like, "Yeah, don't go up there, blah blah blah. I know you'll go up there." I'm like, "I don't even have shoes on. I'm in flip flops. I can't do it," kind of thing. But then when she hung up, I changed into my hiking boots, and I went up, and I had some experiences up there, and seen some things that ate at me and ate at me and ate at me. So 3 weeks later, I made the trip back, a 12.5-hour drive from my house all the way up to East Tennessee, the Foothills Parkway off of 40, just east of Cosby. But this time when I got out of my truck, I parked in the exact same place, turned around, I had my phone on record. And when I did the exact same yell facing the mountainside this time, within the same amount of time as the first time, I got whooped at, a return whoop, but it wasn't a whoop. It was a high to low. Woo! So I got that recorded on my phone with my video, and then I was like, and then something. I've told the story. I don't know if everybody wants to hear it. I've said it, on a few other shows, but
yeah, we'd love to hear it, man.
So I did. I drove 12.5 hours. Okay. I'm very determined, and my truck's still running. So I go to the mountainside is on my driver's side. So I go to my driver's side door with my doors open. I'm sitting facing out the door, facing the mountains, getting my hiking on. And I literally said in my mind, I just drove 12.5 hours. There's nothing that's going to stop me from crossing this road. About 3 seconds later, there was this enormous crunch. It sounded like something picked up a giant tree and smacked the side of another giant tree. There was no tree fall where there was cracking and creaking. It was silent. Crunch. Just bark on bark is what it sounded like. And I never crossed the road. I said up here, in my mind, there's nothing that's going to stop me from crossing this fucking road. And then that happened, and I never crossed the road.
Well, you know, I don't really blame you. Hey, Mark, thank you for joining us, man. Appreciate you being here tonight.
Yeah, I had to reset my internet, man. I couldn't get going here, but I finally reset, thankfully.
Well, I'm glad it did.
For having me. Sorry about being late, guys.
No problem at all. Everybody, this is Mark Zaskey. He's got the show Cryptid Realities. He's got some amazing videos on YouTube. I'm talking mind-blowing videos. You guys have got to check these videos out. Make sure you like and subscribe to his channel. Again, it's Cryptid Realities on YouTube. Check those out. And as a surprise, we got Kerry Pocket Doc Davis in the house. I thought he was lost up in the Rockies somewhere.
We got back a little earlier than I thought, man, so had to jump on and see my peoples.
We thought we were going to have to send a rescue party.
I'm not Bigfoot poop or bear poop, so that's a good thing.
Well, yeah, but you are bite-sized, like those little Barney Rubble Mint chewables.
Yeah, I'm a little Bigfoot tapas.
Well, Doc, thanks for getting here. Mark, your channel just kind of blows my mind seeing some of those videos.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. A lot of work goes into it, that's for sure.
Oh, absolutely. You've got some of the clearest, like, when you look at those videos, you've got some of the clearest video I've seen. And like I said, it's just freaking mind-blowing when I watch some of those videos. I was like, whoa, wait, I actually see this one. But so 9 times out of 10, somebody posts something, you're like, maybe if I squint just right and cock my head, I might see something. But no, you're looking at that and it's looking back at you. It's pretty intense.
Yeah. It's the way we set up the research scheme. Basically, we're dealing with the same group, and so they get used to us after several years of interacting and going in there. We like bringing them little bits here and there. They love apples. So once we realize they love apples, man, they just come back, and so we go to the same spot. Same individuals come in, and we catch the same ones on film over and over, and we continue to get a little bit closer, a little bit better footage every time.
Yeah, John Abraham.
Are you using?
Just gonna say, John Abraham had it on chat where he said he couldn't find Mark's channel. John, that's
I just
under
shared the link.
Okay, Crypto Reality.
Yeah, I just shared the link to his channel in the chat.
Perfect.
So everybody check that out. Make sure you guys hit the like and subscribe on his channel. And if you're new to our channel tonight, I hope you hit the like and subscribe as well. Share the video with all your friends and enjoy this kind of content. Looks like we got a question. Taryn Kerper says, question, is he really outside? Probably not. Are you using a green screen?
Are you talking to me?
He's talking to Mark.
Yeah.
Oh, no. I was like, is he talking to me, man? Yeah, no, I'm not using the green screen. I have my Sasquatch behind me.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that. I've been taking some medication for an illness that makes me real light sensitive lately. So I've just been kind of like,
Okay, no problem. And mine is a green screen. I mean, there's nothing back there but the green screen.
Yeah, no, I think I have the same woods, right? Pretty much.
Pretty much.
The same woods.
Well, if you look, the longer you look at the picture, you can start seeing shapes in it. I mean, there's one, right over here, right just below my finger. There's actually a figure right there sticking out behind the trees, and there's a couple behind me. But the more you look at it, the weirder shit you see in the background.
On, yeah. That's great.
I'm kind of tripping over myself. There's so much I want to ask you, both of you guys. I mean,
let it rip.
Between Jimmie's encounter that I got to see, and some of the research you guys have done. These videos, all I can say is wow. I mean, I've got one up on my screen right now, and it's only 3 minutes into the video, and we're looking at movement. I mean, come on. How have you actually gotten this good of footage?
It really does come down to doing exactly the same thing 400 times, and then sooner or later, they start to cooperate in the area. We will catch footage of what we think is one in a specific area, and so we lock that area down and we monitor that section only. And if the individual comes true in other footage, and then we start to see them again in other areas, then we know we start a file. Addition to the tracking and all that stuff that goes on before to make sure we're in the right areas, because we don't go wandering around in areas when they're not. Obviously, you can't get much done there. So we try to find them first, and we found that you can rely pretty confidently on tracks.
Oh yeah, definitely. Tracks are regularly great indicators. But you said you guys use a lot of apples. Do you use like a preset bait station, or do you scatter them around?
What we found is the best thing to do is allow them to figure out what they like. In the beginning of our research, in order to ascertain that we were dealing with what we thought it was, we were going in and charging at them and trying to force movement so that we could see what was going on, and they reacted negatively over that.
I would imagine.
Yeah, they react negatively to being harassed. So we stopped that. And we started to try to bring vegetables, thinking, succulents more than likely would attract their attention. We think most of their hydration in certain areas is probably from the vegetation because the water quality is so poor. But we started bringing foods, and then it just worked out that one day we were leaving the research area and I saw an apple tree. It's the only one in the spot. It's way in the back, and it was buried behind some stuff and big bushes, and it was a swamp apple tree. Big green hard apples. They're not actually tasty at all, and they're hard as rocks, but they eat them. And when I saw the apples, I was like, let's try apple, and that was where it all began, man. Peanut butter and apples. We get our DNA from peanut butter jars. They're excellent DNA traps. They love peanut butter. Once they understand what it is and that it tastes like it tastes, they seem to they want it. And then the apples. Really, the apples give us the ability to control where we film the Bigfoot, because what we do is we throw in the exact same spot over and over and over and over and over, 15, 20 expeditions in a row, and you start catching them in that spot where you've been throwing the apples. So to test that that's what's going on, we'll change spots. And we're not catching anything where we're throwing the apples now, but in 2 weeks, there'll be 7 of them.
Oh, yeah.
It continues to go like this in our experiments, right? And so we help them to choose the lanes that are best for shooting footage of them by throwing the apples in the best lanes for shooting. And they'll come up and take a peek after they get the apple looking for another one, and I got you, buddy. That's really what we've been doing. The equipment gets better, the footage gets better. It just works like that.
I know years ago, some buddies of mine and I got the bright idea we were going to put out like carrots and different vegetables, and we found a stump that we were going to use, and we would set way back and watch with this old crappy camcorder that we could zoom in with, and we never got anything. But then we'd go down to check it, and the food would always be gone. So we started building a blind closer to it where the camera was actually be able to pick it up. And we built it slowly, so it wasn't like a huge change to the environment. We're all thinking we're just cool as hell, and we keep putting out these carrots and stuff. And so we sit in this blind and we're waiting, and we come to find out we'd just been making the deer in the area very happy.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff going on. Peanut butter with the DNA traps. There's a lot of that, And then you'll run in when you check your traps, and you'll find jars with the lid screwed back on, and the glass is completely clean. No peanut butter in there at all. It's washed out, screwed back on real tight. And so, one day we got into the research area, and it had been probably 25, 30 jars in the testing, and we never got one back that had anything in it, and they were either torn up with teeth, which, we got to dismiss immediately because it's hands we're looking for unscrewing lids, right? So you wrench it on real tight. Anyway, we were in there, and we went to go approach the DNA trap, and Melanie and I were conversing, and on my left-hand side, I caught movement and looked, and there was an individual at the DNA trap watching me. And first I didn't recognize what was going on, because this was one of the first times that we saw the light diffusion phenomenon on a creature in real time.
With their hair, right?
Yeah, well, it wasn't just the hair; it's everything. It was like the skin. What I saw was like about 10 different colors moving, and it wasn't leaves, and I couldn't understand what I was looking at because it looked like it belonged underwater. So
let me ask you a question, Mark.
All stopped, and there was a Sasquatch standing there with bronze black skin and like an auburn kind of colored hair.
Do you think maybe do you think maybe because of the hair and everything that people are saying that it cloaks?
Yeah, well, I mean, essentially, what's happening is and so let me just say this. I rounded the corner where that individual was, and we got his DNA. The peanut butter jar was open, sitting up perfectly straight, and the lid was sitting right next to it, organized looking. And then inside were finger swipes, and 3/4 of the jar was gone. So we promptly put the lid on, and it's been frozen for 4 years now. So we're waiting on reliable testing, which I think is coming up.
Yeah.
And then we're going to contribute some samples. We have a lot of hair and that kind of stuff. Now, to answer your question, what was your question again?
By their hair and skin, like you said, it looks, it distorts.
What you see
that for?
Yeah, well, I mean, what you see when you see a Sasquatch is largely determined by the light. Period. And this is what we're seeing anyway in our data. Our data clearly says that if you see Sasquatch under certain conditions, they can be just about any color.
Right.
Including changing from any color to another color within milliseconds.
Right.
In front of you, to where it just is literally confusing you, and you're not able to tell that there's actual creature there. It just makes it a 2D movie demonstration with color. And then suddenly, if the light changes, if it's not being diffused anymore, the canopy stops and a solid beam hits the creature, you'll see it for what it really is.
Right.
And what I saw was a drastic change between colors when the canopy stopped. And the subsequent sighting, I saw an individual that was clearly bright green. He looked like a lima bean. And there was dark green, and the hair appeared to be dark green or black. As the individual moved forward from the canopy, he turned white, and he had clear gray hair.
Right.
But the hair and the skin adopt the coloration of whatever they're in.
Right, around them. Right.
And this is largely the effect, and the intensity of that effect is largely determined by the amount of sunlight diffusing at that given time. So midday, you're going to have diffusion to an extent that you will not be able to see this individual if he's standing right in front of you. Lower light situations like dusk and dawn, in those situations, in early morning hours, you will be able to see these creatures a lot better.
I got you on that one, man. I know what
Jimmie, I think this question was for you. Ivy Ray says, I'm late in catching up, but I remember that show. Did they really hide in the freezer at first?
Well, it wasn't at first. It was after it fell out of the tree and it scared the bejesus out of us. We turned and ran, and my oldest brother back to the door and locked us out. So when we got to the door, my older brother, that was just, he opened the door and we got in and shut it down behind us. And so, yeah, we were in there. We were, again, if it wanted us, we were there for the taking, man. We were in this tiny spot that it felt like shelter at the time. It just leaned over, looked at us, and it huffed, it sounded like a horse just releasing air. And then just turned around and walked away. We had no idea where it went from there. In the show, go ahead. I was just going to say, in the show, they made this thing sound like it screams 5, 6, 7 times. It only yelled one time. And that's what got our attention. That's what made us go around the back of our mobile home and go into the direction where we thought we heard the yell. They kept doing this ridiculous scream that's not what we heard. But the actual scream that we heard is in the opening, the intro of These Woods Are Haunted. Everything goes quiet for a minute in the intro, and then it just goes, ah! Like a lady scream, just one big, ah! It's like a real fast scream. It just like sounded like a woman being ripped in half. She gets one good scream out, and that's it. It wasn't a long scream, just a ah. It's in there. And I told them that's what we heard, and they looked at the sound engineer guy while we were recording this in Philadelphia, and he said we should probably use that then. And then I was excited that they were going to use it, and when they played that other thing, I was just like, come on, man. Come on.
I know they take a lot of liberties with these shows. I know they take a lot of liberties when they tell these stories, but was it really smashing through the door?
Yeah. Yeah. When
crap.
when the one that went was at the window, and my brother shined the flashlight across the window, and that's when I was 5 feet away from it. The bed was directly behind me. I turned around and jumped over the bed, and by the time my feet had hit the floor, one of the back stairs was right out. The back door was right outside our bedroom door of the back of the trailer, and the steps were made out of cinder blocks. And by the time my feet landed on the other side of the bed, one of those cinder blocks got thrown through the back door, just through the back door. So it's just a split second for me to jump over the bed and land. This thing had to go to its left, make a hard right turn, grab a block, and throw it through the door in that amount of time.
You think it was possible there might have been more than one of them?
No, it had to be. It had to be there, because what was at the window was this is what's bizarre. What was at the window was the big cinnamon colored one, but what I seen with an arm coming through was black. So it wasn't the big, unless it had black arms. Right. It had very similar color to the Jack Link Sasquatch, but lighter, more cinnamon color. Mm-hmm. And so the thing about we hesitated going past the hole in that door, and that's what I had told the producers. I'm like, I don't know if we were hesitant, and I was so scared because I was scared of an arm reaching in and grabbing me, and I manifested a fear into my head, or if this thing really did reach in and try to grab us. But I see in my head a big black arm reaching in to grab us. And I told him, I was like, I can't, if I had to bet my children's life on it, I couldn't tell you if that was a manifested fear that we were so scared of, that I was so scared of, that that's all I see from that night, or if it really happened. But either way, that's all I see. But looking back, it doesn't make sense that the one at the door, or the giant at the window, was cinnamon, but the arm that came through was black. Yeah. I don't know if that answers your question.
Mark got his. You got your ass leveled out there, didn't you, Mark? One time, you said.
Yeah. Yeah. They throw stuff, man.
That one hit you with the branch, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. I got nailed with a branch, but I was also acting like a jerk off because I thought that it was drunk people in the bushes.
Right.
Now, who was gonna say that there's a bunch of Sasquatch following us, honey? Like, come on, man. I went down and we were yelling at people.
Right.
And it was only when, and to be honest with you, I was scared when they were walking off than I was when I got hit by the branch, because when they were walking off, I knew they weren't people.
Right.
They were these things were enormous, man. And it was like, when I realized that these two things that were there were enormous, and then we examined the footage and there was one behind me. I had walked past one, and the one behind me was enormous. It was standing halfway up the levee and was at my wife's eye level and then 2 feet above it. So it was literally 2 feet above my wife's head, and he was already standing down the bank 6 or 8 feet. It was a 12-foot bank. And I had walked right down the bushes right next to him and walked right down there trying to get at his friends, whoever was down in there. Now, I just look at the situation and, the aggression that we've received, we've always been on the giving man first, and we did it as a part of an experiment.
Mm-hmm.
We want to know, so let's do an experiment. And so we would do that, and it just so happened that the way I would respond to someone coming into my house acting like that is the way they respond. They respond the same way, man. You get aggressive in their house, and they'll let you know they're there. I think, Jimmie, you could probably, were you on the trail the night that people were getting aggressive, that somebody stood up and basically said, shut up?
I was holding the parabolics, and I heard the yell through my earmuffs outside parabolics. I mean, this thing couldn't have been but 60 yards from us when it did the yell. So I told Kerry, if he ever gets this audio from that, it's going to be the next Ohio Howl. The Ohio Howl sounds like it's way off in the distance. This one
was the 168.
Yeah, it was 168. But the interesting thing about it is that
there was some argument and pushing going on.
There was tension and aggression being displayed on the trail.
Yep. Correct.
And in every single instance that we've had them around us, and I've displayed tension and aggression, we received tension and aggression back, including using the drone to create tension. They don't like the drone.
No, not at all, huh?
Not if you, drones are flying around, but if you're using it in research, I'm flying it in very close quarters to very specific locations that I do not want to walk into for good reason. And so the drone is me, essentially. They got off the ground and charged me.
Right.
And they know, they're watching us. They watch us take it out of the box, out of the case. They watch us put the propellers on it. They're all sitting in the bushes watching. It's like, it's hard to convey that aspect of it when 99% of the researchers walk through the woods and don't understand that they're sitting in the bushes you walk past. It's very difficult to convince people that they can be that disciplined, and they are, and they will sit there and let you walk right past them. You can stand there, and I have footage of right now that I'm editing of Jimmie and I having a conversation as we're being watched by one less than 60 feet from us. It's like, okay, you can review the footage and then subjectively add doubt, or you can accept that there's an apex, a big, huge skull with an oculus on both sides that's enormous, and two big balls in the middle of it, the big nose. I mean, we're looking at a hybrid primate human, man. This is what it is. And we're having a conversation in the foreground. What we're doing now, what we've been doing for 3 years, is documenting what the Sasquatch do when researchers enter their area, so that we can better understand how to conduct research. That's
Mark Napier had a question, and this one's like something I've kind of wondered too. He says, question, am I wrong in thinking they just can't figure out glass because they could easily break out windows, but they beat on the walls instead?
Gosh, man, I don't know, man. I don't know, I don't know. I don't think they have I don't think they have much trouble figuring anything out. I don't think they have much trouble at all. Technology, yeah, I get it, you know what I mean? But standing there looking through a window, like, Jimmie, I couldn't imagine anything like what you're describing. Like, and that's not even, that other thing we were talking about that you told me about, something coming out of a tree on you. Yeah. Looking through a window and having a pane of glass that close to that thing, man, the encounters I've had have been in the field, and a couple of them have been close. But most of the time when we see them, they like that buffer. They like that little 70-yard buffer, man. You move 40 yards forward, they move 40 yards back. They're just going to find the line of sight and try to watch. So, you look for line of sight. But you see this, man. I could not imagine being that close to one. And being little. Like, you guys were kids, right, Jim?
Yes. 41 years ago.
That's nuts.
Why do you think that was so aggressive towards you, Jimmie? I mean, you guys do anything to piss it off. I mean, obviously. Well,
see, here's the thing. This ties back to, since Mark brought it up, literally this is just like an epiphany. What Mark just said about him being aggressive in their house, the argument out on the trail. This really, wow, I never thought of this. We're in the back bedroom of our trailer, I've said this all the time, but I've never put it together until what Mark just said. But for some reason, we're sitting back in a bedroom, and this are off, and back there was this toy flashlight gun called a ghost gun, and you could take the cap off and put different caps on. It would project different figures of beings, and they would turn it on in the complete darkness, and I would scream like a little girl. So they kept doing this and doing this and doing this, and I'm screaming and I want to turn the lights on, and they don't want the lights on. Why? After what we just went through, I don't understand. We're doing what we're doing. My brother
sucks being the little brother, doesn't it?
My brother said, "We'll just open up the curtains and let some light in that way." And then when a couple of times of it going by, and it may be with what Mark just said, all this of me screaming like a little girl. We're on the outside of the trailer. They're hearing distress and kid bickering. This is like an epiphany, man. That may be why.
Could be something to do
with
the kid that was in danger.
Also, here it is again. Shit, I'm getting the goosebumps. We were running around the trailer. So if you're looking at the front door of our trailer, to the right is the hitch, and that's where my my stepdad's bedroom was. To the left is where our bedroom was at the other. We're running clockwise around the trailer, and we're throwing dirt clods at each other, hitting each other with sticks. I'm usually catching the brunt end of it, being the little brother. So there's yelling and chasing and abuse, and then there was just that one scream that stopped it all. It made us come together. We were passing the front of the steps, going back this way. We came together without saying a word. I mean, we huddled together, and then we walked and just drawn in the direction that we went. Wow. That may have been a yelling, distressing. It's 41 years ago. I remember throwing dirt clods at each other and throwing sticks at each other. I imagine somebody was a little irritated about getting hit a little too hard or something. There may have been some bickering back and forth, maybe that was them saying, knock it off. Just like what Mark said, just like I'm in the room, and I'm screaming like a little girl. And just like in East Tennessee, when I do this aggressive yell, something roars at me from behind. Then I come back and I do it again, and I get whooped at again. I'm in their territory, and I'm doing stuff that they're probably not liking. I mean, that's wow.
I had a thought, and it's just kind of occurred to me. I know you guys left the trailer that night.
Yes.
And it said in the show you didn't go back. Did anyone ever go back to that trailer?
Not that I'm aware of.
I was wondering if it trashed the trailer even more.
Can't blame them.
Yeah, right.
See, in reality, because I try not to air dirty laundry on national TV, my stepfather, he's Native American, full-blooded, and he was trying to calm the situation down when my mom was, because they got into a knockdown drag out in the kitchen when they came in, and my mom was crazy, ridiculously abusive, and the fact that we're all living as children, is my cousins say, is a blessing. So my stepfather kept say that it was his nephew that was doing all this. His nephew was maybe a year older than me. He's not going to be in a 6 foot tall monkey costume, 15 feet up in the air, and when he lands after the brakes and his legs barely bend on impact, his nephew's not going to be at the window in a giant monkey costume that's 8.5 minimum feet tall. He was saying this stuff. Well, this sand lane that we had to drive down to get to the road, about a quarter mile away, at the end of the sand lane is where my stepfather's brother lived. So that's where the nephew was. They up there and whooped his ass. We would not have left that night. We just wouldn't have. We packed all of our stuff up in garbage bags, threw them in the back of that El Camino, and drove back to Illinois that night.
Damn.
Jimmie, you just sent me a couple of pictures. I'm going to bring those up and let you discuss those. There's the first one.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, that's a great picture.
Yeah, man.
Okay, so we have a hot spot that we had. I mean, it's still there in Ocala National Forest, and we have a friend. Her name is Kathy Westerman. She's a great lady. She does some photography and stuff and whatnot. She's always wanted to go out into the woods, but didn't have any place to go. And I'm like, look, I mean, we don't own the woods. There's a here that we had many 17-inch imprints with 17-inch three-toed imprints that we've tracked. We've got 3-toed imprints, and we've got 13-inch three-toed imprints that we have tracked. And I casted is what I meant. And so we sent her to this place and said, knock yourself out. There's tons of structures that can't possibly be man-made. Like, they can be man-made if there's 6 or 8 or 10 men making these things. I mean, there's 5 trees in a line, and the trees are woven in between all the trees, and then there's 6 of them on top of each other, woven. And these are full-grown, trees that are woven in a line of trees. So, so we sent her there, and so she went in there to take some pictures. Her name's Kathy Westerman. She's great. And she went in to take some pitch structures and whatnot, and she really had no idea of. She was just snapping and snapping and snapping and snapping. And then she got home and she had that. And
yeah, you can see that plain as day.
That's very, very convincing, man. This is right, in an area where we casted 17-inch three-toed prints.
Is that the spot me and you were talking about?
Bombing range?
Earlier? Yeah.
By the bomb? Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Okay.
Is this near the area where 168 was filmed?
No, it's about 3.5 hours, 3 hours and 45 minutes, 4 hours north.
It's by me, DA.
I know one of the things that really just resonated the most with me about the 168 was when you started talking about the clear hair shafts and the gray skin reflecting light. And I've been saying something very similar to that without the actual, images to show of the hair shaft and everything. I've been saying something similar to that for years, that this cloaking ability that everybody attributes to it has got to be some sort of natural adaptation. There's no other animal in the world that can walk through dimensions and disappear behind trees. So there's got to be logical explanation for why it can do this. And when as soon as I watched that video, I was like, that is exactly what I've been saying, and it actually brings a scientific basis for why.
That's why I asked Mark that, because that's the only logical thing that comes to mind.
There's another aspect of their existence that we're studying now, and that's the way the sunlight and the color frequencies in the sunlight actually interact with the color of the bush. And what we're finding is that since the color of the bush is reflecting basically onto the skin, and the skin is achromatic, which means colorless, it adopts that color, right? But the sunlight has these multiple colors in it. Green and red, for instance, combined create a shade that human beings in their 3-cone vision system can't see.
Right.
So scientifically, there's a phenomenon literally going on at the same time as all of those adaptations that we discussed with the hair and then the skin color and the diffusion. There's also something going on with the sunlight called forbidden color. And when blues and yellows in the color spectrums combine, they produce a shade that humans can't see. And when reds and greens combine, they produce a shade of color that humans can't see. You can be trained to see it if you learn that it exists. It's like that old myth where they say blue didn't exist in Greece or whatever that was.
Right.
Color blue. You guys ever hear that?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. When it's strange, man. What we're learning now is that forbidden color is deadly optical illusion on achromatic skin. You're looking at something from the white color spectrum all the way to black. The absence of color on both ends of the spectrum, and it's gray area in between, if you will, right? Mm-hmm. But the diffusion is so intense on the light end of that. The white skins is what we're calling them, and it's not Caucasian, it's canvas, art canvas, painting canvas white. So the forbidden color really transmits and rebroadcasts off of their skin. I bet you I have a half a terabyte of footage with these big gray clouds in the bushes and a big old face sticking out of the top. Because there's a difference between which light is hitting where in the color spectrum of sunlight. And so the diffusion is varying on the creature itself. What we're learning now, and we're still documenting all of this and trying to provide corroborating footage. We have footage of the creatures turning colors in real time. What we're also trying to do, though, is we're trying to capture the colorations of the sunlight by filtering and messing around with the exposure so that you can then see, and we have done this a few times, where you watch some of our films and you'll see the colors of the sunlight in the footage. And the creature is more visible somehow. Right. That's because I'm filtering out the blue. I'm taking all the blue out so that it can't mix with the yellow sunlight and create this illusion that the camera has trouble seeing.
Yeah, I've seen some of your stuff. He's going to look at it, but I don't know. Doc, have you seen videos?
I have not. I'd be intrigued to see them.
Mind-blowing stuff that he has. Really.
Yeah. It's really.
Colin had a question. She said, "Did you say 3 toes?"
Let me answer it like this.
Oh, hello. Here it is.
Holy
shit! That's from down in Florida.
This is down in Ocala National Forest.
Yeah, it's literally.
You can see the pad impressions and everything on there.
Yes.
Where he's talking about 5 minutes from me.
Do you think that's like an adaptation, a variant of the Bigfoot type creature, or is it possible that's a deformity?
That's a question that I can't really answer because we didn't see what made this. What I can say is there's a 3-toed Bigfoot out there. What I'm not saying, and me and Bobby that found it, and what we're saying is there's something out there with a big foot and 3 toes, and there's something a little bit smaller with 15-inch footprints that's got 3 toes, and there's something even smaller with 13-inch 3-toed. They've all got this characteristic. This right here.
So it's probably
and
a family
the smaller
thing.
The smaller one's toe actually has a little claw. So it kind of looks in the cast. So it kind of looks like, let me put it smaller. It kind of looks like that on the smaller one. The 13-inch. I promise you, seeing this on camera does not justice until you're holding it. So when you're holding it like this, okay, I'll try not to die. And then I put my foot up here.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
I'm a size 9, little tiny baby feet. Make fun of me. Go ahead.
I wear 9.5. I'm right there with you, bro.
I wear 11.
I'm a 10.5, right so yeah, I'm right there with Doc.
That's huge, man.
Yeah, that is big.
You can see this right here is overpour where my fingers are actually on. But this was in substrate that was pine needles just woven in with leaf litter and sticks and sand. We couldn't stomp an impression, and this was about 1.25 inches to 1.5 inches in place.
Wow.
Damn. Mark, you haven't had any of those up and down by you, right? Three toe, or you have?
No, we haven't gotten any 3-toed yet. I've seen a 3-toed track one time in a trackway, but it was like a proving point for 3-toed tracks. There was literally a pebble that was 2 toes wide, and it prevented the 2 toes from making an impression so it looked like he had 3 toes. If I hadn't tracked him for 700 yards, I wouldn't have known that. But in the end, there was, 70 inches before that, there was another track with perfect 5 on.
And another interesting thing about this 3-toed track is these impressions went up to a big X structure. These trees that made the X structure were probably 18 feet tall, and it was at the right side of the tree structure, the X. The thing was stabbed into the ground about 6 inches. It wasn't broken off from the top, it wasn't broken off from somewhere else. It was literally into the ground.
And Jimmy, you said the ground was hard.
The track
packed?
went to. What is that? It's. I would say hard packed. It's just a place where there's a lot of, like, Anthony knows the subterranean there, and there's just tons of needles and live oak. There's sand mixed with pine needles and pine cones and twigs and just leaf debris, but sand way underneath there. So you got a bit to dig to.
It would take a considerable amount of weight to put an impression that deep in sand.
Yeah, that's a lot of weight.
But we watched this trackway lead up to the right side of the X, stop, and then come back around to the left side of the X, and then the tracks appeared 30 or 40 feet behind the X. We couldn't find them.
And the crazy part about this is and I know the area where he's talking about, live bomb drops in this range area where you think all the animals are going to get scared. I mean, it shakes my house when they do the live ordnance. So this thing is so adjusted and it's like, they're doing drops on, they're dropping bombs. Okay. Like it's nothing. You figured to be scared away,
Yeah.
This thing is hanging around this area. And it's guarded by military, this area, on top of it.
Is that near is that the Avon bombing range?
No, this is in the Ocala area.
So that's a little further north then.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
And I know the place that he's
Was it
talking
called
about.
Crest or something like that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Heard one of you guys had a story about somebody getting a flashlight slapped out of their hand.
Oh, 168.
That was Mike.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's 168. That was Mikey V. Mikey's also a part of our team, our page, our group page of Florida or Bigfoot Forest Giants and the Choppy Bigfoot. Mike's a great dude. It's fun to be around. Nice to have around. Talk to him daily. It was me and Mikey. So I had a project to try going down this trail. And we were going to see if they would parallel us. And this trail goes about a mile down, and then there's an intersection. So the trail goes this way, and there's a T. But we were going to stay on the trail, and we had Christopher Noel and Blake hiding back here on this T about 10 yards back. So as we went through the intersection, whatever that would tell us and continue to follow us, we have now caused them to cross into the open. So while they're sitting there hiding, waiting with their film these things in motion, continuing to parallel us. So that was the plan was. It turned into a shit show as soon as we got out of the car. But we were walking down the trail, and then let's see, we did have something on the hand side making big noises or this big old bush. And, without talking about it, one of the guys ran in. Had the camera as well, so we had to regroup and whatnot and trying to figure out what's going on. So there was, everybody heard the motion behind this big bush. I mean, I say big bush. It was half the size of a girl. It was a big bush. And so when we ended up not being able to actually lay eyes on anything anymore, we got back in the trail and went down. Then we had pine cone fly over our head and then bounce and roll forward. So we're stopping and we're looking and we're listening. We're filming. And then we get nothing. And then we continue down the trail. And I'm carrying the parabolics. So I try to keep Mikey just behind me so it's not picking up his footsteps so loud being in front of me. So Mikey's literally a step and a half behind me. And as we're walking, I hear, if you've ever had a big mag light and you've hit it on your hand, you can hear the batteries recoil.
Right.
Clank. We're walking, I've got the parabolic, and I hear clank, and this big light, one end's a flashlight, one end's a knife. You can take them apart, and one end's a taser. It's a multi-kill you tool. And it flies and lands just in front of us. And instantly, Mike puts his hand on my left shoulder with his right hand. His left hand, he's got his pistol out, slinging it around sideways like Boys in the Hood. He's freaked out. He's like, what's going on? Zaskey didn't say anything about this, He's like, what's going on? He thought maybe it was the guy behind us that was supposed to be filming us and with the camera, and he was supposed to be right behind us. Well, he was about 50 yards back. He's filming the bush instead of filming us, and so that changed the vibe. I mean, the vibe was already creepy. That changed it and made it more real. Now, I've got parabolics on. No creaking, no rustling, no jipping, no nothing. I did hear clank and just flashlight go flying out. Well, we end up kind of regrouping in that part, the three of us, and make our way past to the intersection where nothing happened. And when we're at the intersection, a couple people that's where they started getting into their argument and their disagreements and the pushing and the touching, and that's when this thing just went ooh, but much lower. I got a great range power, but I can't get as low as this thing did or as loud as this thing. It takes bass to move a lot of air, and this thing was moving a lot of air. And that's where the flashlight episode happened. But we had other things that happened out there in the same location the night before the last night we were there. And Carrie went and built a fire out there on the trail, and we all sat there. And on the way back to leaving, a rock was thrown at Christopher from the same location where this yell came from. And then Blake and Josh, I believe, got two thermals hits in that area, so they ran in after it. But where the thermal hit was, when they got it, there was nothing there.
Nice.
Well, Jimmie, I know your encounter when you were a kid was pretty terrifying, and you said that's your only visual. So I already know the answer to your question, because I always like to ask this question. Mark, what was your most terrifying experience?
It's a toss-up, man. There's been a lot in the research thing, but I have to tell you that shocking-wise and like all of a sudden kind of stuff, I was in Mayaka with my son in 2012, August 17, 2012, at 3 o'clock in the morning. We were on a trail. We had just passed under the observation tower, the main trail. And the trail right there before the observation tower veers to the left. And there used to be a huge palm that went over the trail. And my son went under it, and I stepped over it. And we got about 30 feet from it. And there was a huge crack up off the ground behind us. And we had the headlamps on, and I had a 4 million candle watt spotlight. And we spun around, and this creature was falling out of the tree. And it was I would say, if it stood up all the way, it was probably 40 inches tall. It looked to weigh close to 100 pounds. And it was falling with its arms outstretched and a horrified look on his face. It was like looking all crazy. and as it fell from the very top of a very bushy coconut palm, it was literally, there's nothing in this thing, is just a trunk. And it goes up to this hole in the canopy, and there's a big bushy top with like a bunch of palm. It was in that. And we just walked under it. And so anyway, this thing, we whirl around, and I got the spotlight on it, and it's in the light falling, and it's screaming, and it's got its mouth open, and it flipped sideways as it fell and went boom on the ground, landed sideways on its side. And the impact went through our boots 30 feet away, dude, through the sugar stand. And it was hard packed. It had rained so bad that day, so it was like really hard to sugar stand. It then in one blink of an eye was up and like looking at both of us in its chest. I'll never forget. I saw its nipple because it turned its whole body to look at us, and then it like let its hands come down, and it just went, and it looked disturbing the way it was using its arms. They were coming way up over its head and stretching way out forward, and this thing was like this fast and gone into the salt meadows. And I followed it just like that with the spotlight. And then Christopher whirled around, my son, and we were blinding each other. So we had a moment of spotlights in the eyes and shit. We both lost it. But the sound we both heard, it went about 20 feet into that patch, and it just came dead stop all of a sudden, and there was another sound. And there was another sound in the atmosphere at 3 o'clock in the morning, in the middle of there. And we were both outside of our bodies, freaked out. But it was 40 inches tall, I would estimate. It was black in coloration. It had gray skin on its hands, and all of its body was gray, but it had black hair in varying lengths. And it had very short hair on its head, and it had a little tuft of hair that came to a point.
Do you think it was it a skunk ape, or do you think it might have been a devil monkey?
Well, I don't know. I think that was probably a juvenile skunk ape, okay. Just to keep that one simple. You know what I mean? 40 inches tall, that's not huge. That's less than 4 feet. So it definitely had to have been a young one. Yeah. No, we were convinced that it was a young one since my son had already seen one that day, and we reported it. That was like 9 feet tall, and it was like, this horrible experience with the 4 park rangers and the biologists in the park and all that stuff. So
my act is known for
why I'm
these
here
things.
on this show, by the way. Yeah. The biologist at Machina State Park, you should have been nice that day.
Yeah, my act is known for all that, man. I know that, and for these sightings, and even when I went there, I was joking around with them, just joking. Hey, did you guys see any Bigfoot? And they just kind of looked at me like, no, And my wife's hitting me, and she's like, "Stop! What are you making a scene for?" I'm like, "I'm not. I'm just asking them."
Yeah.
It's known they're out there.
With that many eyewitnesses coming out of there, I mean, it's not a ridiculous question.
No, they're out there and around there.
I was talking to some of the guys that work Missouri Conservation, Missouri Department of Conservation in the Mark Twain National Forest, and I had mentioned that me and a buddy of mine had caught a dark-colored black panther, on a trail cam, and asked him what he thought about it. And he goes, "Well, the official position of the Missouri Department of Conservation is that they don't exist." And he kind of winked at me. I said, "Yeah." I said, "What about Bigfoot?" He goes, "The Missouri Department of Conservation's official position is they don't exist, right?" And then he just grinned and walked away. I'm like, holy crap! He just basically said they're in there, and just without saying it.
Yeah. We almost caught FWC at our camp when they came checking permits at the 168. Almost fessed up to it. Gary asked him, he's like, "See any Bigfoot out here?" And, he said boogers, and he's like, "What?" He's like, "Any Sasquatch, Bigfoot. You see any Bigfoot out here?" And the FW officer said, "Well," and this is what he said, and I quote, "Well, we know they're out. There are definitely some here in the woods."
He stopped himself right there. Yeah, he went
mid-sentence.
I was there
in front of.
I heard it.
In front of 20 people, and then admitted to seeing some strange.
Something. Didn't he? He went on to describe something that was even more ridiculous than a Sasquatch.
Yeah,
like, dude, you're not going to know if Sasquatch are real, but you're going to sit here and talk about invisible craft and all this other shit like they're real.
Oh God!
When I was about 20, I was with some buddies. We went hiking and camping up in Rocky Mountain National Park, and we were asking the ranger which was the best trail to take to go sightseeing. He goes, "Well, what do you want to look?" I said, "Well, hopefully I'm wanting to see a Bigfoot." And he kind of chuckled. He goes, "Well, I don't know anything about that, but if I were you, I'd take that south trail over there. You might get better luck." And he walked off.
Well, we know from the 168 that they know people are reporting them. Because the very last day, one of the gentlemen at 168, he wasn't a part of the 168. He was just a gentleman at the campground. He had came a couple days prior and asked about potable water, but there's none there at the campground. Leaving that morning, I had 2 or 3 gallons left, and I see no need for it. and I went over and offered it to him. You know, I was like, hey man, I got some leftover water. You're more than welcome to have it. And he just was like, you know, by any chance, you know, you mind if I ask what y'all are doing? I'm like, well, no, I'll tell you what we're doing. And he's like, well, you guys familiar with HL? And what he said, I'm just abbreviating. And I was like, yeah, that's where we have been, and that's where we've had some crazy stuff happen the last 3 or 4 nights. He started to tell me about his encounter that he had a month prior in the exact area. And I said, hold that thought. Stop. So I took him over to Kerry, and he actually filmed his encounter. Kerry filmed his encounter that he had and talked about how he, you know, so, you know, when you start questioning people and random people just telling you an encounter, some people are like, well, he was lying. Well, he said that he called FWC and reported it, and FWC came out and followed up with him. Guess who the person he called was? The FWC officer that showed up and almost admitted to it to everybody, and then he confirmed it with me. He did the follow-up and went out to the exact site. So they're taking reports and they're following up on reports. If they didn't believe it, they would follow up on it. If it wasn't real to them, they would think, okay, yeah, I'm wasting my time. This is all filmed.
Yeah, they admit it, Jim, especially out there where we're working.
Oh, yeah.
We've interviewed 3 different ones, and all 3 of them are, yeah, we take reports on that all the time. All the time is the word that they use. All 3 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's big out there.
Yeah.
I know. That's where my sighting was, so I know. You know, and like we talked about, you know, the locals out there all know about it.
Yeah.
They all know about it.
Yeah, man.
And it's like seeing a cat. Oh yeah, they get there. Yeah, like it's nothing. So, you know, I don't know. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Got a question apparently for, I guess, for all of us. Coral Ayun says, do any of the panel think Bigfoot are less aggressive in Canada than in Florida or Oregon?
I have no way of answering that.
Don't know.
I don't even have an opinion on it. I've never experienced one from there or physically experienced one from Florida, so I can't really you know, respond to that. I would hate. It would be just speculation, and that's not doing anybody favors.
Right. Based solely on accounts taken and ones that I've read, I would say the farther north you get, the more aggressive they seem to be, especially in the colder climes. The hairy man in Alaska is notoriously violent. But as far as firsthand experience, I don't have anything where I can say I've seen this, I've seen that. But the majority of the aggressive encounters that I've read, or I've spoken to people like Fred from Alaska. Fred Roll is in the house tonight. His encounter was very aggressive. So it seems like, much like with temperaments and bears, the farther north you get, the more aggressive they are.
Yeah,
that's just based on accounts.
I've been reading accounts for a better part of 30 years. In the last, probably 10 years ago, I was reading. I had access to a database. I'll put it that way, and I read about 35 or 36 encounters from Canada, and over 22 of them, I think, were aggressive. And I think I see that same trend. The further north you go, and really I think the deeper you get into the wilderness, you get creatures that haven't had a chance to interact or even view humans maybe on some level. And so you're going to get that, you know, first time shock situation every now and then, I would imagine. You know what I mean? I was telling somebody last night, man, in 2015, I got a hospital medical copy from an emergency room signed by the doctor. This guy was somewhere in the Pacific Northwest, up in the mountains, jogging on a logging road when a Sasquatch was paralleling him, hopping from tree to tree on the downslope. So it had climbed up from the downslope up to the height of the road on the tree right next to it, and was jumping as he was running, and it jumped on him and bit his arm off.
Yeah,
this is literally like a medical report where it's animal attack, and the guy describes how his arm got taken. And the doctors
confirmed
it
bit his arm off.
Bit his arm off. It knocked him down. It was on top of him. Smelled him all the way up one side and down the other, and then went right back up to his shoulder and took it off.
Well, there goes Doc. Doc's medical kit would come in handy for that right there.
That's why you need a tourniquet, folks.
We're talking about a huge creature, huge, powerful creature, man. You know.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
then you
crazy.
get the stories like coming out of the Nahanni Valley where they just find headless bodies.
Yes.
Well, can't really tourniquet that one.
What about the area where you're finding in the Pacific Northwest? I think it's west of Seattle somewhere where they find the shoes broken off at the ankle.
Yeah.
Well,
There's a lot of disappearances in the Cascade Range too.
It's like a Bigfoot's like gets somebody and says, "I don't understand what these are, so I'm just going to take them off for you."
I
Jimmie,
can't chew this, so
He just breaks.
Tell them what.
You know
Tell them what happened in the research area with the body out there. We were talking about.
Well,
Yeah.
Jimmie, you go ahead, Jim. You go first,
Yeah.
Jimmie, because you tell this well. You know what I mean?
Are we talking about what just results?
Yeah.
Right. But yeah,
We're talking about the 5 plot and subplot line body story. There's like 5 stories in there. You know what I mean?
Well, there was
in that area.
In the area where the flashlight was knocked out with the roar, the knock, the issues we've been having with our cameras shut off with 30% life on the batteries, filming things, and when we get what we think are our prime suspects, our files are corrupted on our memory cards. In the field, a body, they said a drunk hunter was found in pieces in a pond out in this location by alligators, and infested alligators. I've been out to this place quite a bit, not as much as Mark, but I've been out there quite a bit. And I'm from Illinois, so I like looking for the wildlife. The gator, even the little lizards running, still make me laugh, man. I for them, you know. So all the times I've been out there, I've only seen 2 alligators, and I've had to look for them. No ponds. I haven't seen marsh and stuff where when the water level goes up, you know, you start getting marsh. But there's times when it's completely dried out too. But the fact that they said it was alligators and the guy was drunk, and there was pieces of him scattered all over. They just don't add up. That don't add up at all. It's not how
a gator acts.
That's not how things work. You know, they don't. And then you know, going to get the toxicology within 24 hours of pieces of body that's in water. You know, unless this guy was wearing a shirt that said, "If I'm upside down, I'm drunk," and he was found upside down. You know. I don't mean to make light of the situation. I mean, but some things don't add up.
No.
But
it's
you know,
interesting to me
if
that they didn't.
If it was,
they didn't even mention his vehicle, Jim. Did you hear about a vehicle?
No.
Did you hear about a firearm, Jim?
No.
Did you hear about a firearm, Jim? Because they didn't mention a firearm either. Did you hear about why he was literally hunting in the pond, in the middle of the pond, with the gator in the middle of no hunting season? I didn't hear about any of that.
No.
They didn't mention a car. They didn't mention a firearm. They didn't mention anything except the fact that obviously he got what he deserved because he had a criminal record.
Yeah, that was the main thing. And then they also said they were sharpshooters watching the divers in the canal. And I'm like, there's not that many gators in the area because I've hunted it. I mean,
this thing was like, okay, at least, I mean, it's like they're just getting worse and worse and worse at it, is what it is. You know what I mean? It's like you got, just in the video, 3 of the officers that are in the video are officers that have pulled me over and have taken reports in Hungryland of the suspects that we're doing shows about. They're in the video, standing there with the people that are looking for the body, right? In addition to that, the truck is literally parked right where the retired highway patrol officer was parked when the Sasquatch walked out of the exact bushes from the pond found the body in and ran into his tailgate. Literally, like, all of this stuff that goes on out there in the exact spot there's more corroborating evidence for these creatures to be suspects in this freaking case than what they've shown and what they've said, for sure.
They're not going to admit that, though, Mark. You know that. They're not going to admit it.
Not to mention, just the general public will hear a guy got torn to pieces by alligator infested waters. That's all they need to hear, because that sounds legit outside of this community. So nobody's going to question.
Find a body anyway. Gator's going to eat what it wants and shove the rest up underneath the root while to eat later.
My thing is this, right? Like, why do you wait until a week later, and then the guy's already dead? What's the need for the special report to add insult to injury and make it think, well, he got what he deserved because he had a criminal record? You know what I mean? Like, the way they phrased it was like, well, he was up to no good anyway.
And then they found another body.
Like that for?
And they found another body in a shallow grave out there of another crime person, I believe, right?
They found like 10 bodies out there.
Yeah.
Like, and the thing that gets me is that's all over the news, but you don't hear anything about the people that are missing. Nothing.
And if you got a serial killer in your neighborhood,
if you weren't there in the actual research area to know and hear it from actual FWC personnel that there are missing people that were never found.
Well, the hikers.
You wouldn't even know it because it's not on the news. And
the hikers in that area.
Yeah, no, two campers from two different campsites in 2 days.
Yeah.
2 different campsites in 2 days, and they didn't know each other.
Disappeared right there, I know.
That's, like, come on, man. And it wasn't on the news, and there's no record of it. We tracked that investigation for months. We were in the research area when the people went missing. So, I know for a fact that they don't tell everybody everything because we've looked for those 2 guys' names. And I've had other people looking. There's no missing people reported from those dates. And from what I understand, the one guy they did find, supposedly, and could not explain how he died, or would not explain how he died, would be a better way to put it. This is going back a month after they went missing. And this is anecdotal, so we don't even know because there's no official report. You can go look at the Palm Beach Sheriff's Office. You can look wherever you want. There's no official report on these 2 people that indeed, for a week straight, had over 100 people searching for them. No kidding. I couldn't believe it.
It's like the David Paulides missing 411 cases. One thing, he concentrates on disappearances in national parks, but who's documenting the disappearances at the edges of or just outside those national parks?
Yeah,
because you're not seeing the bigger picture when you're not seeing everything in that area. Because you can have the boundary of a national park, and a mile outside of it, there might be people that went missing and either never got reported or they were basically swept under the rug. They were no one of consequence, no investigation done.
Yeah, well, I mean, colloquial patronage of all like the local wildlife areas and all that stuff. You're going to get more local visitors who know the place more, and they're going to be more familiar and have a less superficial interaction. National parks, you get a lot of tourists. You're getting superficial interaction and all that kind of stuff. I would venture a guess that more people go missing outside of these touristy areas in the more private wildlife management areas.
Oh, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Well, like when we started digging into the disappearances in LBL, how many of I can't tell you how many of them we found that were officially cause of death listed as wild dogs. I don't know too many wild dogs that attack people. They're generally like coyotes that are pretty much more afraid of people than they are interested in attacking them. I mean, I've never heard of a coyotes attacking people unless they were wounded and down on the ground bleeding already. Coyotes aren't the bravest things in the world. We've got a lot of these disappearances that are happening everywhere, And not all of them can be comfortably explained away by wild animal attacks. Sure, some of them probably are. Some of them are just been cases of people that just wandered off the trail and got lost. Even some of them might be human predation. But if one of them was abducted, if one of them is case positive, absolutely proven abducted by a cryptid, then we cannot rule that possibility out on the other unexplained ones.
Yeah. Too many questions.
So someone asked about aggressive Bigfoot before, and I know that near the Kiamichi Mountains and the Ouachita Mountains in Oklahoma, they're notoriously aggressive. Also in the big thicket area of Texas, they're notoriously aggressive, and those are both areas where people have been, a lot of people have been reported missing.
Yeah, I think so. I think it seems to me, man, that the 168 situation, those Sasquatch, we've been messing around with them for like 6 years at that point. You know what I mean? And it didn't surprise me. Like everything that they experienced, we've experienced in there. It's just, I have to attribute that, like the playful stuff, throwing the little pine cones and all that, that's typical. Mm-hmm. They usually, and Melanie has been hit with a rock in the head, and it did hurt. It was hard. It was thrown. You know what I mean? It was intentional, no doubt.
Yeah.
But and hearing what was going on at the exact time, I think was what triggered the response. And I wasn't there to hear it. Jimmie was there, and there's several other people. I'm assuming there was a whole group of people that heard what was going on before that scream, right?
Five.
Okay, so 5 people were there to witness this Sasquatch do this. Is that right?
Yep.
Man, that's incredible, man.
All 5 of us heard it.
But it's like aggression, right? So I don't know what it is, man. I don't know. Like I said, maybe they're just more chill down here than they are up north, maybe it's got something to do with the heat, something like, they're just a little more relaxed because they just don't have the energy kind of thing, who knows? But that, like I said, there was aggression going on at that time, so I really can't say, in these other situations, but I damn sure have read a lot of reports from, I would say the Massachusetts line north. And they seem to just, be riddled with these aggressive anecdotes,
Also a lot along the Appalachian Trail.
Yeah. I've read some from there,
There's quite a few hikers that have gone missing over the years on the Appalachian Trail.
Hunters with incredibly aggressive stories in that, and Smoky Mountains, that kind of. But listen, guys, I got to get out of here. I want to thank you for having me on, man.
Really, thank you for being here. We really appreciate it, brother. Anytime you want to come back and talk Bigfoot or any cryptid you want to name, you are more than welcome. And again, everybody, if you have not had a chance to check out his channel, it is, I will post the link again. It is called Cryptid Realities on YouTube, and he has some freaking awesome videos. And I just posted that in the chat. Everybody make sure you get over there and hit that like and subscribe. And Mark, thank you again for being here, man. And I hope you have a great night. And I would love to have you back. I would really love to have you back sometime.
Absolutely, man. You guys just let me know, and we'll make arrangements, man. It was really fun. And I love doing these group things where we all talk and answer questions, man, because I learned just as much listening,
Exactly. And I tell my viewers all the time, there are no experts in this field, and we're all constantly learning. And anybody that claims to be an expert, I would avoid them. Yeah, they're selling you something.
That's right. We're all learning here. Thanks for having me, guys. You guys have a great weekend.
See you, Jimmie. I'll talk to you soon.
See you guys later, Anthony. Nice
night,
meeting you.
Night, Mark.
Nice to meet you too,
Bye,
bro.
everybody.
Have a good night.
Mark was. That was an awesome experience having him on here. Jimmie, you've been doing a lot of your investigations in you said the Ocala region.
Originally, that's where I started out. Once I realized, I had to look into this a little bit more. That's where I originally went, into the Ocala area. But then when I started finding out that there was other places much closer to me, I got tired of driving 6.5, 7 hour round trip drives to get in the woods.
You were involved in the 168 project, correct?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? Some of the
Yeah,
stuff that maybe didn't quite make the video?
Well, there's the best stuff, in my opinion, didn't make the video. Was supposed to be on the second part of the video, but there's been so much footage that's just been lost, or damaged, or not right. So it's hard to find. I can't remember how many terabytes of footage that he's got. So he's got 20 audio recordings and video recordings of a week's worth of that to go through, edit, and whatnot, and then not documented as far as it's documented, but not okay. This was session at this time on this day by these people, just saved in and logged in. So there was actually a footprint found, just a few yards from where we actually did all of our cooking. Just people were seeing, hearing things from the tree line about 150 yards away across this open field. There was what night it was, but it's like something grabbed some cut palmetto branches and made a circular area right on the other side of the fence where we were cooking. And it just was bizarre. It almost was like, y'all are eating some really good stuff. Can I have some, put it here type of thing. So once we noticed that, some of the guys literally did just put a bunch of fruit, bacon, all kinds of food in this area. And then we marked it off. Everybody stay out of the border of this, and it was, we were coming back in, and I'm just covered in covers. There are no more out there because they were all on me. I'm digging these things off, and I'm sitting there and I'm saying to myself, how do these damn things go through the woods and not be covered and matted? People always see these things and they don't look like they're matted like a cocker spaniel running through cocklebur. So I was like, wait a second. There's tons of cockleburs out there where that little structure of palms are. Surely there's some hares out there. So I went I went out there and I literally got around the structure and I started going in a circular motion. And then when I got to a certain spot and I came across a white hare. So I went and got him. I was like, hey, we got a white hare here. I mean, we are also thinking this is an area where there was tons of people riding their horses, so everything was accounted for. Well, it could be this, it's possible, it could be this, it's possible, it could be this. It was really fine, though. Really, really fine. I used to break horses as a child, been around them a lot. This was really, really, really fine hare. And so after finding the one, I went a little farther out and made another circle. And then I came around a spot and found another hare. So now I've got a hare here and a hare here. So we collected that hare. So I did this, I think, a total of 5 times. And what it did was every time I went around and I found a hare, it provided a path of where this hare that was getting caught went up this little tiny incline and then dropped back down to go towards the pond. So this thing had came up, whatever it was that had this white hare had came up over the bank and came down and came straight to it. But by doing what I did, and people ask me, what do you follow this? I'm like, no, I just went around it and found something. I did it again farther out. Once I did it twice, I was like, there's a pattern here. I need to continue following this, and this might tell me where exactly this thing came from. And it did. It showed a path of where the white hares came from. Mark did a little bit of analyzing, and they turned out to be the clear hairs, just like he's got. And so there was that. There was Carrie almost stepping on an alligator in the middle of the night. And we were chasing we were in an area where Dave from Lost Cryptid Conservatory at the time had gotten zapped, and a couple other people started feeling nauseous and funny and whatnot. And between me and Bobby, Mark Zaskey, and Josh, we're getting a thermal, a man-sized thermal between me and Bobby, and we're in a clearing. It's pretty bright, no clouds. I can see Bobby at nighttime. It's probably even 30 at night or so. I can see Bobby. He's 15, 20 feet away. There is a tree in front of between us, like a old, I don't know, it might have been cypress, maybe. I mean, a single tree, but seeing is a man-shaped thermal. And as we're looking at each other, like, no, there's nothing there. There's a tree. They're like, no, it's moving. It's right there. Filming this with their thermals. And then as Bobby gets closer to it, Mark is yelling, "Who's that right there? Who's that right there?" And Bobby was like, "It's me." He's like, "Right you are. Wherever you are, this thing just did like mist. This thermal that they were on top of, that Josh, I believe it was Josh and Mark, they're filming this. But we see nothing. But it's a weird, so there was several things that had happened, along the lines of that. When we went out to the very first time we went out to the place in the crossroads where the flashlight had gotten out, the flash carrying the flashlight. Somebody asked earlier in the chat where the flashlight came from. Mike was carrying the flashlight. It's a sectional thing. You can take it apart, and on one part of the section, it's got a blade in it that buries into another section. Another part, it can be a taser. Another part, so he's out there with a Swiss Army weapon and a flashlight. And when we originally went out there and we did some screams, it sounded like a banshee yelling back at us, way, way off in the distance. I did my high-pitched scream, and whatever echoes don't change pitch. Mm-hmm. So what comes back at you should be what you put out. This thing just came back way, way higher, but it was way, way far away. So there were several things like that, and then one of the locations, the group campground, several people had seen what they said were orbs. They were filming them side by side. One guy had a FLIR, and one guy had night vision. They were side by side. They were showing up on the night vision, but they weren't showing up on the FLIR. Mm-hmm. But they're looking at them with their eyes and seeing them. So there were several people on multiple nights that were seeing these orbs. I didn't see them. My focus was not to go looking for lights. My focus was to go look for Bigfoot. And I'm not a researcher. I don't have anything against people that are researchers. I'm not out there trying to research anything. As a kid, when I had my encounter, I did not want to look at this thing. I looked away as fast as I could. As an adult, I want to lay eyes on one. I want to be able to observe what I'm looking at. I want to be able to take in what I'm looking at. I want to be able to confirm what I'm looking at, just take it in without getting killed in the process. But so I was there. My task was, Carrie's like, we need some people that are willing to sacrifice themselves. As far as if there's one behind the bush, we need somebody to go in after it, get it out, chase it out, bird dog it out so we can get it in motion and see it. And so for me, I was killing two birds with one stone. I was like, release the Kraken. If there's something, let me go. Mm-hmm. I will tell me to go. And so that was what my job is and was. And that's kind of how I approach things now. If there's something that I hear, 90% of the time, I just go in. Most of the time I'm alone. It's not the best idea, but to be fair to the guys that are normally with me, usually when I go out, I'm sitting at home watching TV. I'm like, you know what? I gotta go to the woods. It's just like I get up and go, and hey, you want to go? He's like, yeah, I do, but it'd be nice to have some heads up, type of thing. And Bobby's 4 hours away in Dunellen, so he's not going to make it. And so me, it's getting out there and laying eyes on it and having my own personal encounter. Not writing times down, not writing what the weather's like. For the most part, remember that stuff. Not writing, what the substrate is. Again, I'm not a researcher. Not because I got anything against it. I'm just not out there for that reason. And there are things that I still need to learn. That's why I love hooking up with people and networking. But mostly what I want to learn is, hey, what's worked for you? For me personally, and some people might not like how I say this, I don't care. I don't need to know the difference between a deer track and a pig track because I'm not looking for deers or pigs.
Right.
I don't need to know the difference between a water moccasin and a rat snake because I'm not out there looking for a rat. But I'd have done my due diligence and I know what are non-venomous and what are venomous. So I'm not just go out there and pick up a water moccasin or a cottonmouth or a rattlesnake. I'll go out there and try to wrangle up a water snake. But I'm not scared of snakes. But looking at certain tracks and stuff, I don't care about what kind of tracks are deer and pig because Sasquatch aren't imitating those. I don't believe they're imitating those. I don't. So when it comes to tracking things, it's pretty. Even for somebody that didn't grow up in the woods, it's pretty easy to pick up on things. I did learn some things. Me and Bobby, when we found out, we had a bucket of hair, man. We had a bucket of hair that was 6 feet, 7 feet in the air, 5 feet in the air, black hair, and we were like, holy Christ, there's a Bigfoot out here going through chemo. There is so much hair out here. Turns out it was just some of the fibers from the live oak, that look like black strands that
moss,
float in the wind. It's just little black strands that looks like hair, and we were like, what is going on with all this hair? We started to get scared, we were new, so we did learn some things. But looking for the signs. A lot of people poo-poo on the structures and poo-poo on looking for tracks. Well, you know what? If you don't find tracks and you don't find structures, you're not in the right place because you're not finding activity of them being there. You need to look for something that's telling you there's signs of them being there. So when you're starting out, that's all you got to go by. If you don't have evidence of them being there, which are tracks and which I believe structures, you got to start somewhere. You got to have a starting point. You can look at the substrate. You can look at the hot and cold spots, depending on your atmosphere. If you're in the hot area, look for the colder places in the woods. Because down here in Florida, they're going to be sitting out in the sun with all that hair. They're going to be finding a cooler spot to chill during the day. That's my opinion. That's my theory. I mean, it just makes sense. But
everything does it in Florida. Everything beds down in the daytime. Deer, pig, everything beds down. It's too hot.
Yeah. So do we.
Yeah.
So do we. Yeah. That's the one thing in the 168 I made sure everybody was aware of. For guys, okay, this might get a little bit graphic, but the people coming out of state, when you're out there in these Florida woods and you're tromping around and it might feel 90 degrees, but it might be 90 degrees, but it really feels like 105. You need to load up on the A ointment in your lower areas because it's going to be raw after the first 4 hours, and you're not going to be able to walk for the next 3 days. It's going to feel like you are walking with a cheese grater between your legs.
Right.
And I was telling people, the heat's different down here, and you all need to lube up. Basically diaper rash type of stuff. I had a tub of the ointment. There's different atmospheres that you got to be ready for, and the micro atmospheres are just around the corner. From 1 second it looks like you're in Vietnam, the next second it looks like you're in the pine forest, the next second you just look like and it's all within a quarter of a mile of each other, in the same quarter mile. Right. So there's a lot of different little ecosystems in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to take a minute to make say a quick thanks to Deborah, and I am sorry I cannot pronounce your last name. She gave us a super sticker, says Shiba dog laughing slightly while blushing and cover his mouth with one arm. That's hilarious. I had a couple of questions from the chat for you as well, Jimmie. First one was, says, have you ever been to the Mayanca State Park in Sarasota, Florida?
I have not. I kind of want. I mean, I do want to go. I have heard that there have been some aggressive encounters by some red ones. And, you know, for me, call me, I don't know what you want to call me. I've been called, but for me, an aggressive encounter would be a good thing, because now it's willing and to be aggressive. Now I can lay eyes on it. I carry with me a shoulder-mounted 4K little Sony camcorder. It's 4K shoulder-mounted. So what I'm seeing, it's going to be on there, and the files somehow get corrupted while I'm in the field, which still does not make any sense. What I have found out, the people that get corrupted files on their equipment while they're in the field, this equipment is also Wi-Fi capable. So it could hook up to Wi-Fi, you can hook on. So if an agency is watching and doing, I mean, you know, now you're going into conspiracy things. You got to think somewhere what corrupts files in a shoulder-mounted camera. You know,
got to be something electromagnetic.
Yeah.
Yeah, magnetic fields out there. The readings are off the chart out there too. So, you know.
The other question was from Ivy Ray. She says, question for Jimmie. So where did your family go after you left that night that fast?
We drove straight back to Illinois where we came from. Straight back.
That's a long way to ride in the back of an El Camino.
Yes, it is. Yes.
I've done it when I was a kid. Everywhere we went in my dad's truck, and me and my brothers were in the bed of the pickup. That's a rough way to go.
Yeah.
But we survived riding in the back of the truck everywhere with no seat belts or seats or anything like that.
Yep.
The only time it was comfortable is when he actually remembered to put the camper shell on.
We didn't take time to pack anything. We threw our clothes in, and it just looked like somebody hauling a bunch of trash down the road. And that's what we used. My two older brothers, that's what we used in the back of the El Camino to keep us warm and not get hypothermia driving through the mountains, was bags of clothes. We left our dog. We had a big Irish setter, Big Red. Big Red was sitting in the sand lane when we pulled away. Left our furniture, couldn't take any toys, anything. Just for people that are not happy about that. I'm not happy about that too. But when you're 7 and then you're abused, you don't have
no.
So I just wanted to address that. I would never leave my dog anywhere.
Nope.
Did your stepdad ever talk to you guys about the event afterward?
No.
Just didn't bring it up.
The strange thing about it was I was mortified but the strange thing about it was when we got there, he said it in a way he didn't like us kids. He was just there for mom, didn't want the package deal type of thing, and he said it in a way. So what you seen on TV wasn't. It's how it went, but the tone isn't how it was. You boys stay out of the woods, man, back there. You know, and for us, hearing those words together in the same sentence for the first time, Harry and man, we laughed. And his attitude was, "I told you. You know, they get you, they get you. I could care less." And that was his attitude. And you know, so it was when I was watching Finding Bigfoot. Moneymaker was talking about Yoari National Forest. The Native Americans called it Harry Man. That's when a flood opened up of all emotions that were just suppressed and locked away, and feelings, and the fear and the terror was locked away. And it was just, it overwhelmed me. I was on, like many people, I was on YouTube I came across podcasts and then binge listened to Sasquatch Chronicles. I think I caught up to that thing in about 3 weeks. I mean, I was listening to it at work all day, listened to it on the way to work, on the way home from work, listened to it at home. It encapsulated me. And then when, at the time I was living in Georgia, then they just opened up a museum in Georgia, Edition Bigfoot in Cherry Log. That's when I went down there, and I had to go. I went up there, and I met Dave, the owner of the Expedition Bigfoot. And he had a director from Terror, and the executive director, Michael Sheehan, reach out to him, and then Dave connected us that way. And that's how I ended up getting in on These Woods Are Haunted.
Well, I'm glad it did. I mean, that's still one of my favorite episodes of These Woods Are Haunted.
Yeah, that's a crazy story.
It is a fantastic story. Now, when you guys were out in the woods, when the one fell out of the tree, how far back did you go?
Originally I thought it was 75 feet from the back of the trailer. Just a little from the back of the trailer. It may have been a little farther, but that's 7,500 feet. But in the episode, they made it look like we were wandering way off in the woods, and the woods were really thick, and it wasn't like that at all. It wasn't like that at all. The woods they had tore down out of trees to make room for this mobile home to come down the sand lane and make a swing around and back it in and put it in a certain way. And so there was, up until about 60, 80 yards from our house is when the woods started getting thicker, but you could still see through them, like the woods that's behind you right now, DA. And so, when we heard that one scream, we just started walking. And once we got to within an adult's arm length from this tree, there was a crack in the tree. And when we heard that crack, we all looked up, and this thing had one arm, its left arm, wrapped around the side of the tree, almost like if you put your hand on a flagpole and extend your arm. So it was cupped around, and it had its feet slid all the way up against a tree on that branch that it was standing on, and it was crouched down with its knees bent really big. And as we looked up at it, it went to stand, and when it went to stand and shifted its weight, that branch it was on broke, and that's when it came straight down and landed, like I said, its arm length from me. And when I, as a kid, seeing something fall 15 feet up, I'm thinking it's going to die or be mortally wounded. So I look down where it's going to land. And when I look down where it's going to land, when its knees hit the ground, it bent, barely bent, like you or I stepping off a curb, like it's done this a million times. And so, most people can focus on the eyes, or they can focus on the nose, or if you're really weird, other things. But I'm looking down here expecting to see a full view, and all I see are just bent knees. Its hands didn't even drop down low enough to hit the ground. And so in the series, they make it sound like it just jumped off a log. No, this thing fell off a tree, off the branch 15 feet up. And so, it puts things in a little different perspective when you have the truth. But I didn't have anything to compare it to back then as a kid. I hadn't even seen Planet of the Apes, the original one, until we moved back to Illinois. From there, but I had nightmares. I had anxiety issues in the new trailer court where we lived in. I mean, we're in the middle of town. There's a tree line. It's like 3 trees deep, and then you can see a cornfield behind it. It was just a proper divider of trees. That's all it was. It wasn't a forest or thick or anything. I could see the corn through it. And I would go and look out our back door every night for a Bigfoot, for this thing. And it did that for a long time. And then I went to the library to the school we went to, and I came across this book that never heard about Bigfoot or even the Loch Ness Monster until I got this book. And it was a book called something like Mysteries, Myths, and Legends. And it had, I think, Loch Ness Monster on the front of it. and then opening up to it. And I think that was the first time. It might have been the Patterson Gimlin images in this book, but even still, I don't think I've seen the Patterson Gimlin until Finding Bigfoot.
Well,
Really, I've still never seen Legend of Boggy Creek.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of into the new era of movies where things look real and
Right.
the acting's good. And
Yeah,
so
the 1970s. Yeah.
people
Yeah.
keep telling them, you gotta watch it, and it's like, I should.
Guys,
I
let
should
me
give it a
let me
chance.
introduce you to someone real quick. This is my friend Wes. We've talked paranormal stuff all the time. I invited him in to kind of bring a different perspective. He's of Navajo descent, and he really has some interesting
Gentlemen.
perspectives on this. So, Wes, thanks for joining us, man. Appreciate you, brother.
Yeah,
How
no
you doing,
problem.
Wes?
Doing good. How about you?
Not too bad.
We were talking about Jimmie was actually featured on an episode of These Woods Are Haunted, where one of these creatures actually smashed through the back window of the back wall of their trailer, reaching in to get them. Very aggressive encounter.
Yeah. Wonder what caused it to act out. Normally, these things they would just get up and run and not really be so aggressive.
Yeah, that's what people say. The one that fell out of the tree. Oh, yeah, it's another thing. When it fell out of the tree and we were running back to the trailer, it could have had us at any given point if it wanted to kill us. Again, I'm adults arm length away from it, but we turn around and run back. And I look back one time, and it just follows us, but it doesn't run. It doesn't try to pick up speed. It doesn't try to make ground. It's just meandering, following us like it's curious. And when my blocks us out and we get into the freezer chest outside, it just walks up to it, and it huffed like I said, it sounded like a horse releasing the air, or huff grunt. It was just like, and then it just turned and it meandered away. The only thing that Mark mentioned that made kind of sense to me, I've never really thought about, was when the one that yelled at us that was in the trees, my brothers and I were running around the trailer with just kids, 7, 9-ish, and 11 or 12-ish, 10-ish, something like that, 41 years ago. And we were throwing rocks at each other, hitting each other with sticks, being mean, unattended, unsupervised children. And Mark mentioned that any kind of aggression or whatnot might make them act out because it happened on the 168. Well, that night when the one that showed up to the window that had to be at least 8.5 feet tall, if it was standing all the way up, it was completely different. The one that fell out of the tree looked like a 6-foot tall chimp, like a Planet of the Apes with Mark and whatnot. The one at the window, what I described to the guys was it looked like a really, really, really old Native American. It was cinnamon colored, crossed with Neanderthal caveman. And neither one of them could I see whites in the eyes until the one that we looked at in the eyes when it landed. It wasn't until they made this oh crap look like I'm busted. That's the whites in its eyes. It's like their pupil and the retina takes up like all of it unless they change their facial expression. And the one in the window did the same thing. When the flashlight, the ghost gun went across its eyes standing at the window, it did a crap thing, and then you could see the whites of its eyes. But when I turned around and jumped over the bed, by the time my feet hit the floor, that's when one of the cinder blocks got thrown through the back of the door. So in a matter of a second and a half of when we were in that back bedroom, there was a lot of screaming and yelling by me because they were to scare me, and that made us think that maybe they took that as another kind of aggression, hearing us yelling on the inside of the trailer, maybe causing them to something. We as kids, I mean, we weren't doing anything to them because we had no idea they were there in the tree. I don't know
Do
if
you
that
think the
answered
one in the
any of
tree
your questions or not. I really don't.
The one in the tree, do you think, and I know this is just pure speculation, but I would trust your gut on this. Do you think it was up there as a hiding spot, or like it's been watching you for a while?
I don't know. Because we were shocked that it was even there. Again, the kind of sparse in that area, and it had to, climb a tree like what you see people in Hawaii climb coconut trees. I mean, or jump because first branch was about 15 feet up. I don't know if that scream was at us or if that scream was it. The older, the mom or the dad or the grandfather or whatever, because that trailer had only been there just a couple days. It was just there. It just had the anchors in, and then my stepfather had to hook the electricity up the day we got there. So it might have been some new people in our area, we need to get rid of them or something. Ben, that there was a little bit of picking on something, and this is like, hey, knock it off. Kind of like what Mark said. It kind of it kind of clicked.
Well, so one of the things I think is most interesting about that is, like you said, like it could have gotten you at any time, yet once you were inside, it got really aggressive. To me, that again, I hate to speculate because I wasn't there, but to me, it almost sounds like they were trying to drive you out. Jimmie, we can't hear you.
Yeah, that's what some people had said. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Can you hear me? I haven't done any.
Yeah.
Hello.
Huh. I don't know. I just suddenly you just suddenly muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Here. Still can't hear you. There's no mute.
Oh, he can't hear us now.
Oh, now he can't hear us. That's weird. Because it was working fine just a second ago.
Yeah. Well, my internet's been going. It's been clicking off, man. I don't know what's going on. Doc's been freezing. His screen freezes on me when I'm watching him.
Yeah. And guys, this has been a great show. But after being in the car all afternoon, all evening, I'm gonna pee on a fire and call in the dogs.
All right, Doc, brother, thank you for being here.
Thank you, brother. Love you, man. Y'all have a good night.
Love you too, brother. You be safe.
I'll talk to you later,
all right, man. Y'all have a good night.
Jamie, you hear us? Not eight.
I can't see him either.
Let's see.
I hear him now. Yeah, I can hear you now. And now it's off.
Now it's off again.
That's his cords messing up.
It shouldn't. Let's see. I have another somewhere. Let's see if this works out. It's my recording.
We can hear you right now.
Huh?
He's putting his headphones on.
We can hear you.
Okay. I just don't know if it's going to cause feedback or not. Is there any feedback?
No, I don't hear it.
Oh, okay, cool.
Okay, awesome. Wes, what do you think? What do you think caused him to be aggressive? We can't hear you, dude. Can't hear you.
There he goes.
Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
I'm using the mic on my laptop, but it could be that intruded on his territory. It could be something with food. It probably frightened that it's
Man, we're having some audio issues.
No, it's the internet too, man. I don't know what's going.
I think it is.
He froze up.
Mine was going down. Even Doc's was acting all hanky and stuff.
He's out where it's got to be brought in by snowmobile.
And are you getting a feedback?
Now we're getting a little bit of feedback. Good Lord. Did somebody mention that satellite?
Yeah. No, they're listening, man. They're listening to us. That's it. They're screwing the whole show up.
Who knows? Maybe that war that's going on caused some issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll just blame that. Well, we can hear you now, man.
Friggin' Russians.
Okay. But as I said, it could be something that you threatened them or somebody in the neighborhood threatened their territory and they acted out.
Yeah, one thing that somebody had, it's kind of off topic, but it's going back to what somebody had mentioned earlier in the chat. I thought I seen somebody talking about mind speak. Now, when I was in East Tennessee, and I told you all that when I heard the big crash, it sounded like something took another tree and smacked it on another tree. I put my hiking boots up, and then I went up the path of least resistance. And what just happened with the crunching on the tree crunching the tree, was scary enough. But I was making my way up there, and what I wanted to do was I wanted to be higher than where I thought what it was that yelled at me. So when I'm looking down, I don't have canopy that my eyes have to filter. I was trying to eliminate that, so all I could see is horizontal movement in a vertical world with trees, you know what I mean? So my eyes don't have to try to filter out the canopy, looking up and seeing the ground and seeing the trees and the canopy. I wanted to look down. And so I went up to a certain point, and in mid-stride, something said, "Do not take another step. It'll be very bad if you do," in mid-stride. Now, when I say that, I don't say it's mind speak. And I feel like saying it any other way is a sin than the way it was portrayed on me. Do not take another step. It'll be very bad if you do. It's just saying it other ways is wonky. It doesn't feel right, because it was like a projected thought. It wasn't a voice. Like when you're thinking about things and you can hear yourself thinking about, you can hear your own voice while you're thinking about something. This was a thought that said, "Do not take another step. It'll be very bad if you do." And that's the only way I can describe it. So I was like, okay, screw it. I'll go straight towards where I thought that this thing yelled at me from. And in mid-stride again, 15, 20 yards towards it, the direction, the same thing. "Do not take another step. It'll be very bad if you do." And in mid-stride, I planted and I just listened to it. I didn't think twice about it. And while I was walking up this mountainside, I wasn't looking at the ground. Everything was covered in leaf litter. There was 6 to 8 inches of just leaf litter. There were down trees that were covered with leaves. It was just, I wasn't going to find any prints. And visually, I didn't see any structure. So there made no sense for me to just look at the ground. I was looking for something, maybe darting behind trees or peeking behind trees is what I was looking for. But on the way back, I started paying attention to the ground. And I came across 12 to 15 dinner plate sized rocks. They were on top of the leaves, where everything else has been covered in leaves. Other rocks were covered with leaves, but these rocks were on top of the leaves. They weren't slid down or some kind of little slide. They didn't have mud on the top of them. They had been there. And that ate at me. And to me, it was like, there's not one of these giant walking in the forest, stumbling around like aisle and dropping rocks. This is a place that's frequent. And this was my mindset. You know, what I'm seeing, there's even some of these dinner plate sized rocks that are behind a tree, and down the hill is where the traffic and stuff is, you know. So it ate at me and ate at me and ate at me. This is a place that they're residing at. So when I left and came back 3 weeks later, drove 12 and a half hours to get there. And then that tree crunch, or the whoop, the tree crunch happened first. The yell, roar from the humanoid is what happened first, and the tree crunch is what happened when I came. So I didn't cross the road when I came back. But the first time when I had went up after the roar, it ate at me that this is a place where they're residing. Or why would these rocks, where everything else is being covered with leaves, be exposed? And when I got back and I got out of the truck and had my phone out and recorded when I did the same yell and I got that whoop back, that was just all I needed, man. That was confirmation. Now I was going in to get video proof confirmation until I went to put my hiking shoes on with my knees out the driver's side door. And I said, my head, I just drove 12 and a half fucking hours. There's nothing's going to stop me from going up to this mountain. And I said that up here. I thought that. And then like 4 or 5 seconds later, that's when there was a crunch. It sounded like something took a tree this big around and up against another tree this big around. And I never crossed that road. It was like, I thought there's nothing's going to stop me. And it's almost like something knew my thought or my intentions and said, do you want to bet?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, try me.
And I never
Wes,
crossed that road.
Wes, what do you think about I know a lot of cultures, Native American cultures, believe that Bigfoot creatures are more spiritual than physical. Do you think they're capable of reading minds or projecting into minds?
Well, what I think is that, yeah, they would be more spiritual than they're basically considered another tribe. Mm-hmm. So when it comes down to them reading minds, maybe it's not really them reading a mind, but projecting it on our soul, or on our own spirit. And it's like
a strong empathy.
We come in with something in mind, and we're already projecting it through our basically energy of sorts.
Yeah, and
it might be sensing it and interpreting it in their own way, and then they're projecting it back as like a response.
And see, that's one of the things, Wes, that I was thinking on too, because as a child, we didn't know they were there. We would have never known they were there until it vocalized at us. Can you guys hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And we would have never known it was there until they vocalized at us. And now going back to Tennessee and then going back, I had a vocal counter the first time I was going through, just randomly stopping by. I had no intention. Just this thought popped in my head when I went past the scenery area. You should get out and try and stupid Matt Moneymaker Bigfoot yells, you know. I had no intentions on stopping there. It was on a whim stopping there. They vocalized at me a second time. And then I came back 3 weeks later and they vocalized at me a third time. So it really, really started making me ask, for a creature that sole survival of staying hidden, why is it letting me know it's there? And so I really started thinking, maybe there's something that has to do with, mediums and psychics and stuff say that, we all have a certain kind of aura energy, a color. There's blue and green and white and yellow and red and purple and pink, and that can be seen. Maybe the color of energy that we give off, they can kind of sense, okay, this guy's no harm. This guy, his soul isn't going to harm us, or he's not, in his soul we can see that he's not going to harm us, or maybe he needs something from us, or I don't know. So they say that psychics say that maybe they had that ability too. Maybe my aura is pink, and they're like, "This guy's a sissy. Let's screw with him." You know,
Who knows? Maybe it could be just something that out of respect of them actually letting you know that they're there, and so that you're not freaked out.
Some people had mentioned that because I had an encounter, and I don't know because I had an encounter as a kid, that maybe I'm marked in some way, and the others can see that I have been marked somehow, whether it be spiritually or energy wise or whatnot. Because again, everything has been random. Just spur of the moment. Hey, I'm gonna stop and do a stupid yell. Something roared back at me, really, 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 really loud, really low. And it just sounded like a giant humanoid that just went raw, just really loud.
I could be completely wrong. I've got a theory on that. I think once you've had a like physically see one, I think something clicks in your mind that opens you up to them. I think it's like seeing a ghost. If you never believed in ghosts, the first time you see a ghost, you have that awakening in your head that they're there, and you become more aware of them. It's strange. It's like before I went into law enforcement, I never noticed license plates on cars. Just didn't pay attention to them. And after almost 20 years in one uniform or another, I can't not look at license plates now. I mean, we'll be driving down the road. I'll go, that one's expired. My wife's like, stop it. You're not in law enforcement anymore. I'm like, I can't shut it off. I think it's part of what your brain is really trained to look for. And I've noticed that the more I go out and look for things, the more I've kind of opened myself up to things, the more I've experienced things. And I don't know if that's an accurate correlation, but that's just the way it seems to me.
When it comes to the paranormal stuff, if once you basically look through and look past the veil, you start seeing things. And however, those things also see you, and they might be reaching back and to get you, or maybe try to make contact because, like, oh, they actually see me. What can I do, or what do I need to do? Especially for these Bigfoot, the dogmen, because they fall along the same lines as paranormal, and they're probably on a totally different dimension that they live on, and occasionally they would kind of shift over into our world. That maybe one thought on them.
Yeah.
Well, I know after I spent time in LBL last year, for weeks afterwards, I just kind of had this feeling like I was being watched. I'd go outside with the dog and just couldn't explain it. I mean, it was just a weird feeling. And I talked to Wes about it, and he sent me some things to try and do, and finally broke that connection. But it was for a long time after I left LBL that I felt like something had connected itself to me, and I couldn't shake it.
There are some entities that basically don't want to do any good. They want to harm you in one way or another, either physically, mentally, spiritually, or go after the things that you love and care for, such as families, whoever is close to you. Now, for a reason why, either because you disrespected it, or they're just bored.
Yeah.
And there are some ways, there's some things that other cultures have picked up in trying to deal with these entities. There's practice of tossing salt. There's trying to refocus on yourself. Spiritually, they're setting up totems in various places. Is doing some chants, just all sorts of things, all to try and protect yourself and the community that you're in.
Yeah. Well, what we did find, because I didn't go back alone when I went back to East Tennessee. I went back a year later with my buddy Bobby, and but when we went back, because we wanted to go back the same time frame, I was feeling like this was a pattern thing, and maybe, I don't know if they migrated. I won't even speculate, but I was just kind of feeling like maybe it was a pattern thing. And when we went back, I did the same exact yell. We got nothing, but it was raining. The atmosphere was different. It rained the whole time we were there. And so it was pretty safe to try to go up the mountain with wet substrate. When we went up there, that's why I was looking down. I was trying to find the picture. What I thought sounded like a tree crunch. When we got to the top, there is a rock about this big. It's yellow. It's about that thick, and it's laying on a tree that probably goes the tree's laying down, and it goes past my knee. So the thickness of the trunk was pretty good size. It was a rock that was this big that was laying on top of this downed tree, completely on the base of this downed tree, and on the other side of the root ball was the other half of that rock. Okay. So when we went back, me and Bobby went back. Now I think it wasn't a tree on tree. It was that big rock on tree, and it got broken. And that's why I was looking down. I was trying to find that picture, DA, if you mind me looking for it. Send it to you guys. Because I don't know my rocks. Y'all might know what kind of big rock this is, but just bear with me, and I will pull that up, because it's easier to see something than hear me explain it. Just give me a second. Bear with me.
No problem, sir. Send that over to me. I'll be happy to put it up.
Out of curiosity, with these encounters, do you experience any sort of like time distortion? Like missing time?
I don't think so. I know that I know that whenever the experiences that happen to me, I get really dialed in and focused in on the subject. And then sometimes it feels like, because I'm so dialed into looking at videos and listening to encounters, that I lose a lot of time in my life wasted listening to encounters. I haven't noticed anything like that, though. Okay, here we go.
Whenever we go places, my wife is very attuned to things like that. She, like when we went to the Crescent Hotel in Eureka Springs, Arkansas, she picked up on the energy of the place. And I'm a brick. I don't notice anything like that. But I have had a few times when I've been out in the woods looking for things where I would start to go in a certain area and just get this nasty headache, almost like a migraine. And weirdly, if I left the area, it went away.
That's fairly typical. I would feel that pressure anytime that.
That's what it felt like a pressure in my head.
Yeah, it's usually it's either on your temples or it's like someone just took your head in their hands and just slowly squeezing.
Right, I feel it from about here all the way across, like the top of my head, like just pressure right in here.
Yeah,
and I go 50 to 100 yards back the direction I was going. Back to the direction I was coming, and gone.
Yeah. One way you can use that to kind of figure out where a entity or something is hiding out at, it's there. Sometimes you can use that as kind of their form of communication. If you can't really hear them, you can just ask them to kind of manipulate, and it's just like okay, one squeeze for yes, two squeezes for no, and or something like that to try and build some form of communication with whatever there is there. But with entities, you don't know what you're getting into if it's intelligent or if it's just a fragment and just repeating over and over and over.
William Nighthawk asks, he says, does he get nosebleeds or ringing in his ears? These are associated with lost time.
I get both, but mine's due to I had two mastoidectomies, so I had an infection, an over 2.5 year infection in my ear that was staph and then MRSA and just wasn't diagnosed. They were just giving me antibiotics, but they weren't trying to figure out what was wrong with me. So it ended up eating its way through my skull, and then it got all the way through my skull, but it didn't get around it didn't get to my brain. It didn't get through the membrane that's around my brain. So they had ended up having to cut out my skull behind my ear twice. The behind your ear is called the mastoid. And it would fill up with MRSA and pus, and you could smell it 6 feet away. But I constantly have ringing in my ears now. I mean, if you can see, my left ear is kind of starting to fall into the hole that they cut out. But yeah, I have it, but for a different reason. As soon as they did the surgery on my head, both my ears ring nonstop. Sometimes so loud that it hurts. Mm-hmm. But I know when we went out with me, Mark, Mike, that's on our team, and Richard, using an RF meter, other places where we weren't getting any readings, we were getting spikes holding it up to the area where I had surgery on the RF, which was weird.
That is really weird. You need to be getting the electromagnetic frequency from your brain.
from the area right above the ear and temple. Those pictures come through, DA? On Messenger?
Yes. Let me get those downloaded, and I will upload them, and we can share them on the air.
So this rock put together was probably the size of a coffee table. You can see it's probably 5 inches thick, at least. And it was, like I said, it was on a very large tree that was actually teetering off the edge of the cliff of the mountain. So back here is where the root ball was on land, and this part was the part hanging over the edge.
Do you think that was broken, like something slammed it down on the tree to break it? Looks like a pretty heavy rock.
Yeah, it was stupid heavy. I was trying to move the one that was on the tree, and it was really, really heavy. Now, to the right of that tree, when you're looking at the picture, about 10 yards over to the right, there was a spot that was about 5 feet tall, 5 feet high, and then it plateaued, but there was so thick brush on it that you wouldn't be able to climb it. It was straight up. You wouldn't have been able to climb it because there was just a how do I word this? There was a border of brush on the edge of it that you just couldn't get through to try to climb. Does that make sense? Yeah. Like you would need a ladder to get because you're climbing straight up a wall, and without nothing to get over, it was like a barrier is what I'm trying to say. That brush was like a barrier on the edge of it all the way around, and literally that's where I want to go next time.
Was there any more of this rock anywhere near this area?
No, the other rock, I don't know what kind of rock that is. I'm not a rock dude, but again,
I'm not either.
The whole thing
that looks like slate rock. Where was that? Tennessee?
Yeah,
that's slate rock. That same. They have that in North Carolina too.
And you said that there was no more of it around that area.
Not of that, no. Well, it wasn't. Not
you said just the half you tried to move was heavy.
Yeah. What was on the tree?
Moly.
Yeah, it was.
That would have taken some strength to cart that in there.
It was about 5 inches thick, 6 inches thick.
That's a slate rock.
That's a big piece of rock.
And you could see the other part that was broke on the other side of the wall. So, I was, after going back, it really made me think maybe it wasn't tree on tree. Maybe it was rock getting smashed on tree.
Maybe it was being made into a tool, and you interrupted it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of theories about what the quote unquote wood knocking sound is. There are some people that think it's wood on wood. There's some think that it's like rock on wood, and then there are others that the other school of thought is that they can do it with their mouth. I know I can pop my tongue and you can hear it for blocks. I mean, I can do it really loud, and it's just something a lot of people can do. I mean, but it from a distance it would sound, something similar. It's just a noise. I can do it a lot louder than that. I didn't want to overload the microphone. Data Quester says, DA, I spent the first night of my honeymoon in the Crescent Hotel in Eureka. My wife woke up at 3 a.m. screaming gibberish. She had a bad nightmare. We were to be there 3 days, but left in the morning for Branson. We didn't do the ghost tour, but the lady that was at the desk said we could just walk around as long as we stayed out of the areas that were for the wedding. And my wife got the heebie-jeebies in 2 or 3 spots, and she refuses to spend the night in that place. Whereas me, I'm like, hey, this is a neat old place. I'd love to stay here. She's like, no way, absolutely no way I'm spending the night here.
Downstairs in the basement, my father, he was doing the ghost tour, and while taking pictures, there was some lockers, and one of the lockers had a number on it, and one picture, it was there. Next picture, the number was gone. Just completely gone. Then third picture came back. And just walking around, there's some areas where you just get this feeling like, hey, you need to leave now. Or in other areas where it's like, you kind of sense like curiosity. Like maybe like that of a child that kind of lurking behind you. There's all sorts of bad things out at the Crescent Motel.
Mm-hmm.
All
it's got a long and very dark history. Oh, we just got got a super chat from S. Dresden. He says the most simple and or rational answer is usually the most likely. Yeah, Occam's razor. God told us that more than we exist, it can be defeated. Yeah, there's a lot of strange stuff in this world. Anyway, go ahead, Jimmy. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say, have you guys seen that image of the Sistine Chapel?
Which image?
There's an image in the Sistine Chapel where it looks like there's a battle between good and evil, and there's humans that are on the clouds, and angels are pulling them up, and the demons are trying to pull them down. And at the very bottom of this painting that was done in like 1562, I'm probably wrong on that year, but it's somewhere around that time. The very bottom of that image, there's a cave coming out of the ground. Now, all these demons have horns, and they all look the same. But in this image of this cave coming out of the ground, there is one being covered in hair starting to come out of the ground, and there's a demon yelling or whispering in its ear with horns. That is ridiculous. And that's in the Sistine Chapel, painted by Michelangelo.
Yeah.
And I have heard people say that these things are living in the caves and come from within and whatnot. And that is weird to know that, guess what? 500 years ago.
Well, I mean, everybody's saying, well, not everyone, but certain people say they do travel through the cave systems.
Well, I just had this feeling. Don't ask me why. It was just a feeling that I had that that's what I was going to be dealing with when I went to Tennessee, in East Tennessee, up there in the Smoky Mountains.
It's all caves.
There would be caves.
There is.
Okay.
There's a lot of them up there.
And again, it's weird. It's weird to have feelings, not I don't know, is it intuition? I don't know. Just like I feel this way about like saying the thought hit my head, do not take another step. It'd be very bad if you do. Like I said, it feels wrong to say it any other way than the way I feel a projected thought into me. I don't know.
So it was like you were thinking it in your own mental voice.
No, it wasn't mine. You know, like when you think about, like when you think
I misunderstood earlier. Then
when you think about something, you can hear your own voice and your thoughts about what you're thinking about. This was a thought in my head that wasn't mine. Do not take another step. It'd be very bad if you do. Oh, but it wasn't anything strange either. It wasn't, garbled. It wasn't, it was just a thought. Do not take another step. It'd be very bad if you do. And when I looked up the direction that I was going, there was nothing visually scary that would make me feel that way. When I went back to left, which had been headed east, there was nothing visually scary to make me think, do not take another step. It'd be very bad if you do. At the time, those woods weren't thick.
Yeah, I've heard stories. I mean, you're not the only one that says that. There's other stories where they've done that, and the only reason they've done that is because there is a Gugway in the area, and they don't want that human in that area. Yeah, I mean, like we talked about, there's good and there's evil. I don't know. I mean, Wes, you would know this more than I would. I mean,
Owissa, I'm not sure how they pronounce it. Owissa Khan.
Yeah,
that's a very good description. It's like hearing a whisper in your mind.
Yeah, I mean, down here is totally different. I mean, the Seminole and the Miccosukee, they have their different beliefs about the Gugway and regular Sasquatch, good Sasquatch and bad Sasquatch, basically. I mean, if one's in the area, basically it's probably warning you, or it doesn't want to be disturbed. I mean, I can't, I'm not an expert on it. Like DA said, there's no experts on it. I'm just assuming. So,
If you view them as something like another tribe of Native Americans, I mean, they're intelligent themselves, and they probably just want to be left alone. And if one way doesn't work, they'll try another way, and it'll just escalate until something does work.
Corey Cole asked if you felt sick afterwards.
No, I did not feel sick. When I heard the thing roar at me the first time, and when there was the big tree crunch the second time around, I did not feel sick. But the instant both of those happened, this indescribable amount of fear came over me, of nothing like any other fear I've ever felt before. I've been in accidents where I should have been dead. I've been in dump trucks that were hit by semi-dump trucks and flipped over with semi-dump truck on top of my dump truck. I should have been dead. And I can talk about that stuff all day long. But when I start talking about this topic and the things that happened to me, it literally affects my body on the inside and out. It affects my voice trembling. It makes the fear present. And when I go into great detail about my childhood encounter, the fear is coming out of a child's fear, not an adult's fear. It's very weird to try to present what I'm going through, because it all feels like the fear the child of me version was feeling. It all comes rushing back. The nervousness, the shaking on the inside, the shaking of the voice. Sometimes I tear up still. And the goosebumps.
Like some form of PTSD.
That's what I was going to say, man.
Yeah,
You have PTSD.
basically.
Bad case of it.
Well, that event you experienced as a kid, that was very traumatic. Not only seeing the creature, but basically it attacking the house while you're in it. That's a traumatic experience, and I can definitely see how that would affect you, physically for years to come.
And that was one of the things that were, when I was telling you, Terry said he needed somebody to sacrifice, kind of a sacrificial lamb type of thing.
Right.
That's why I volunteered to go in and chase something out, because as an adult, if I can have that experience as an adult, my thought process is I will now have a new experience that I can talk about, that I won't be so completely distraught over when I talk about it from my childhood encounter, because now I've had an adult encounter, and I'm hoping that it'll neutralize that fear and trauma, emotional trauma that I went through as a kid. I'm hoping having an encounter as an adult will kind of neutralize that, and I can talk about it and not have to relive it. That fear.
My Scotch Gaelic is terrible. I once upon a time I spoke Gaelic fairly well, but I can't remember how to pronounce it. Dathy. He says that's because you've seen something that's not supposed to exist.
Yeah, that's what they say.
Yeah, PTSD will mess you up, man. Mentally, physically, everything. It will shut your body down like that. So,
yeah.
To
I had an incident when I worked in the. Oh, I'm sorry, Wes. Go ahead.
To deal with PTSD, it's best to just be with people that are familiar with what you have experienced, and you're comfortable with them, because there is some sort of community with them. It's similar to with the military veterans and them grouping together.
Yeah, I found that the more I talk about it, the easier it is to talk about, but it still does not eliminate all that fear and the anxiety and whatnot. But it's easier. Man, when I was telling Dave Bacar for the first time, I was a wreck up at Expedition Bigfoot, because I had somebody that I could look to and talk to who didn't judge me. He could see what I was going through when I was telling him what had happened. And when These Woods Were Haunted came out, see, this happened. I have 3 brothers and 2 sisters, but they're all half brothers, different dad or different mom. And the 2 brothers that were with me, same mom, different dad. On my dad's side of the family, nobody knew. Nobody knew. My little brother didn't know. We were best friends our entire lives and growing up. So when this thing hit TV and my family didn't even know about it, and friends, best friends, only one friend that I told throughout my life was Bobby White, guy that's on my team. My bandmate. We've been in band for 20 plus years, writing songs, recording songs, roommates, best friends, gone through the good and the bad and the ugly. He's the only other person besides my wife that knew about it. It's not something you just tell people, but now it gets easier the more I talk about it. I don't think it's ever going to completely go away. Like I said, hopefully if I have an adult encounter that isn't rip my face off terrifying, I'll be able to adjust.
Or your arm. Rip your arm off either, and God, but
Yeah. Or wind up a missing 411 case.
Yeah. Especially out there in the research area.
Famous for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah, where is he? Tell you.
Well, Jimmie, I know it's getting late where you're at, and you messaged me something about needing to head out. Brother, I appreciate you being here. I
Absolutely.
appreciate you coming forward with your stories, fantastic stories. And folks, if you haven't checked out These Woods Are Haunted with Jimmie's episode, you're looking for season 2, episode 7. It is my favorite episode of that series, and I've watched that series probably 4 times. Jimmie, again, thank you for being here, dude. I loved hearing your stories and your insight on this stuff, and would love to have you back on. I mean, we could talk all night about this subject, as far as I'm concerned.
Sure.
I just love talking about it, and it's something that interests me and fascinates me to a great degree. And again, thank you so much for being on.
Thanks,
Absolutely.
man, for coming. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
really
yeah.
do.
No, I'm glad to have you. I'll just throw this out there. If it's okay. It's not Bigfoot related. If you're okay with it, DA.
Sure, absolutely. Shoot.
Yeah.
I just recently, I have an amazing family, and my wife and my 2 boys and my daughter, my older son. But my daughter kind of inspired me to write a children's book. I don't know, and I am not that would be writing anything other than songs. My grammar is atrocious, but I just published a book, and it's called Carly. That's my daughter's name, Carlee, Carly the Princess Dragon. And it's now out on barnesandnoble.com, and it's out on Amazon. And it's actually hit the brick and mortar store here in Jensen Beach. It's actually in the store. So if anybody's looking for their little girl princess, some nice little read, feel good story for Easter, birthday, whatever. It's a nice little book. It's a feel good story, and just wanted to throw that out there. I mean, I've done the music. Got some songs that were nominated for awards. One's won an award. I just hit an email up yesterday about my song on this one site was the #1 song in Florida, state of Florida. But for some reason, this book, I feel more excited about than my music, and I think it's just more personal because it was inspired by my daughter.
I shared the link in the chat, so if anybody's interested in Jimmie's book, the link is right there for you guys to check it out, and hopefully you guys will pick that up. Jimmie, again, thank you for being on, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anytime you want to come back on, shoot me a message. You got my contact information. If you see me post a show you want to jump in on the panel on, you are welcome to jump in anytime. You're welcome on the show anytime, brother.
That's awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for having me.
Hey, anytime, man. Richie Evans says the park I had my swamp ape is where I hunt for hogs and deer in Florida State Park. I go in and don't know what that is. Just thinking about to take pictures as I get sick of it forever. Wes, are there any Bigfoot encounter stories that you know of from down where you're originally from?
Well, though I was born in New Mexico, I was raised overseas in Okinawa, Japan, and there's really no Bigfoots. It's that's on the island. I mean, it is an island, but there was a belief of a small little, I guess, it's a spirit, some little tree spirit. That it's considered good luck, but it can be mischievous. I can't remember it offhand, but it's usually I guess characterized as being about the size of a child. I wouldn't say it's owning, but it's about the size of a child, has red skin but greenish hair.
Mm-hmm. What about like encounters or stories from the Navajo people?
My mother really hasn't told me that much of anything, but there is a belief that there's like a mountain tribe that not supposed to go in contact.
Word of warning, there's some
Just
gross
basically leave
stuff
them alone.
in this. Real.
What was that?
That was me. I was sending you something. Sorry.
No problem. I was just
But
like, wait, what, we
the Navajo
picking up bleed over?
But with the Navajo people, when it comes to cold, we tend not to try and delve into it. There is the medicine man that do, that's the kind of their specialty. Yeah, and the evil ones tend to later become the so-called skinwalkers.
Yeah.
There's as for the Bigfoots, it's pretty much just another tribe. They may come down from the mountains and pour something, or see him, leave him alone, now let him go back to the mountains.
Yeah. Well, you and I discussed. You said that the skinwalkers can take any form. Could they take a Bigfoot form?
They could, as long as they kind of have an idea of what one may look like, to take on its form. And if taking on something that is much bigger with a lot more strength, it is more frightening to the little human, then they'll most likely take it, just like they get take on the form of some anthropomorphic wolf or coyote.
I know we're kind of changing subjects a little bit, talking about the skinwalker, but what are some of the signs you can look for that you might have a skinwalker that's either attached itself to you and your family or is stalking you?
Bad coincidence is one. Things just a string of bad things just happen one after another. Family members come down suddenly sick when they're pretty much healthy. Let's see. The garbage being gone through. We have, werewolf. It's like, I've lived on Kadena for 10 years when I was in Okinawa. But anyways, the skinwalkers will rifle through one's trash and get personal belongings and to implement curses. Is even going to gravesites, fresh graves, and digging up the body to bones, or going to other sites, so that they can use it all. They can make curses. And mix some sort of or something to mix into people's food, drink, and to make them sick.
Dresden has a question. Says
one of the things
Skinwalker
is finding a.
What? Go ahead.
Finding a owl feather on one's doorstep is another indicator that a skinwalker might be around, or that as kind of a sign that death is coming soon to your family.
I know that a lot of Native American lore, the owl is a death omen. What can you do to protect yourself from things like that?
There's one way of burning incense, such as cedar, sweetgrass, is chanting while you're doing it, and blessing some water and putting it around your property. Prayer is a big thing. Let's see what else. And if there is a skinwalker that is in the area, if you're able to, one way to defeat a skinwalker, if you're able to capture one, is that to basically say its name. No, say its actual name, and it'll finally come to it, and it'll just die suddenly.
How would you find that out? How would you
That's
find
the
out its
thing
name?
that as part of contracts, that when the skinwalker becomes one, or when a medicine man goes evil and becomes a skinwalker, they would sort of make a contract of sorts that prevents them from dying, and they don't. That does not know their name, and only when you say that their name, I say their name, does death actually come to them.
So the trick could be finding out their name.
There's a trick to it. It's asking around, contacting people who it is, even if this person is hundreds of years old.
Mm-hmm.
And the skinwalkers will fight back and try to prevent a person from figuring out their name.
Yeah. Well, to me, the Skinwalker legend it's one of the most terrifying of the legends. I mean, to me, it ranks right up there with the Wendigo because they're so unstoppable. It's so difficult to kill one. Those are the ones that the Skinwalker and Wendigo are the two that really worry me the most. I know if I encountered a dog man or a Bigfoot, odds are my chances are really good of just backing away from the situation unless I'm provoking them. And if that fails, I'm always armed. So with physical creatures, I feel more comfortable. But the Skinwalker and the Wendigo are both mystic creatures, and those are the ones that really worry me because stopping them is not easy.
Another thing about the skinwalkers is that they have the ability to mimic people, even look like others. They're sort of a doppelganger of sorts. And they'll try to get close to you. Okay, how do you capture a skinwalker?
I don't even know that I want to try.
Well, if you got the balls to do it, it would require pretty much an entire community to do it, to basically surround and keep them caged, and subdue them and keep them in a cage while they try to figure out its actual name.
And that would probably take some doing.
Tacos, somebody said.
Tacos.
They can't.
That's funny.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to encounter that.
Well, if you want,
no, definitely not.
Say, kill her with Taco Bell.
Yeah, that too.
Well, that'll take care of anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Folks, we are rapidly coming up on the third hour, top of the third hour. I think we're going to start winding things down for the night. It's been a great show. We've had some really great information tonight. One thing I did want to mention before we go is I forgot to say this at the beginning of the show, but our podcast is now featured on the Parapost Network. I'm going to be having their logo up in future shows, but we just joined them yesterday. So we are now being rebroadcast on the Parapost Network, and hopefully we've picked up some new viewers tonight. And again tonight, if you're new to the show, or if you're just checking us out for the first time on YouTube, hit that like and subscribe button down at the bottom of the channel. And share the video content with people that enjoy this type of show, because it does help the channel continue to grow and expand and get our reach farther out there. Again, I want to thank our guests for tonight. Jimmie and Mark were awesome guests, and I plan to have them back on sometime very soon. Wes will be joining me again on Wednesday night, and we're going to be talking about some of the stranger Japanese creatures and cryptids. I'm looking forward to that show. It's going to get me outside my comfort zone, because that's something I don't know as much about. But the Japanese do have their own version of Bigfoot. It's been seen on Mount Fuji. So we'll be talking about that and other creatures, including the sacred stone that recently split. And we'll get more into that later. it's really a fascinating area, and it's something I'm just now starting to really explore and learn more about. Anthony, brother, thank you for being here, man. Really
No, no
appreciate
problem, man. No more.
And Doc, if you're still listening, thank you, brother, for being here tonight.
He's passed out, man.
Oh, I'm sure
he looked worn over when he got on. His hair all messed up. I was like, he's like ready to go to sleep.
Yeah, he was pretty wore out. He'd
Oh
been
yeah.
driving all day. Again, I really appreciate everybody joining us tonight. If you enjoy the conversation that we have in the chat, check out the Discord channel, because we have this kind of chats going all the time, and I'm in and out of the Discord daily. So if you've got questions for me and you want to ask them directly in the Discord, I'm always available. It may take me a little bit to get back to you, but like I said, I'm in and out of the Discord. You can check us out on Facebook. Again, hit that like and subscribe button, share the video content with everybody. If you want to delve more into the books and be part of the process behind creating some of the books in the future, you can help that by joining the Patreon community at patreon.com/DARobertsAuthor. And depending on which level you join, you will have access to different levels of development within the books and within the DA verse. So I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. You guys are awesome. We had a fantastic guest. Wes, again, brother, thank you for being here. Really enjoy the content tonight.
Yeah, nice to meet you, Wes.
Same here.
It is always a lot of fun to do these shows, but I really enjoy it when we have people that have such a wealth of firsthand information. And again, Jimmie and Mark, if you guys are checking out the show, appreciate you guys being here. And like I said, we will definitely be having them back on.
Yeah, thank you.
And we'll thank Anthony for that, because Anthony's the one that contacted him about coming on the show. So, man, thank you so much for that. Appreciate each and every one of you guys tonight being here. I appreciate all the great comments and the super chats, and you guys are the best. And we will see you guys on Wednesday night, and Wes will be with us that night as well. So, Wes, brother, you be safe, and you guys take care. Have a good night, everybody.
Night, brother.
Thank you for joining us tonight on DAX Machina. If you ever have an encounter of your own that you wish to discuss, contact us at daroberts@daroberts.net. You can remain completely anonymous if you wish. Pull your covers up tight and keep a nightlight burning bright. Oh, and did you forget to lock your doors?